The funeral home smelled of lilies and formaldehyde, a combination that would forever remind me of the day my brother decided to show his true colors. I stood by Dad's casket, my hand resting on the polished wood, whispering a final goodbye when Brandon's voice boomed across the room. "Attention, everyone." He clinked his whiskey glass with a pen, even though the reception hadn't started yet. "I know this is a difficult time, but I want to assure you all that Morrison Construction will continue to thrive under my leadership." I turned slowly, watching my older brother puff up his chest in his ill-fitting suit. He'd gained weight since I'd last seen him, his face flushed with alcohol and self-importance. "As Dad's son, I'll be taking over the company immediately. I've already spoken to our foreman about the transition." "Brandon," I said quietly, "Dad hasn't even been buried yet." He waved me off like I was an annoying fly. "Jessica, this is men's business. The construction industry isn't a place for women. You should focus on going through Mom's things. I'm sure there are recipe cards or photo albums you'd want." The room went silent. Our relatives, Dad's employees, and family friends all stared at Brandon in shock. Even Aunt Martha, who still believed women shouldn't wear pants, gasped at his audacity. "Excuse me?" I kept my voice level, though my hands were shaking. Brandon started over, reeking of whiskey and cheap cologne. "Look, Jess, I know you tried to help Dad with the business, playing secretary or whatever, but Morrison Construction needs a man at the helm. Someone who understands real work, physical work, man's work." "Playing secretary?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Is that what you think I've been doing for the past 15 years? Whatever you want to call it. Filing papers, answering phones, that's not running a construction company. That's why Dad's will is just a formality. The eldest son inherits the family business. That's how it's always been." Our cousin Tony stepped forward. Brandon, maybe this isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," Brandon bellowed. "Everyone needs to know their stability, that a strong male leader is taking charge. Hell, I've already got plans to expand." Dad was too conservative, too cautious, probably because he was listening to her. He jerked his thumb at me. I smiled then, a small, private smile that made Brandon falter for just a moment. "You're right about one thing, Brandon. Dad's will is going to be very clear about the company's future." "Damn right it is." He raised his glass. "To Morrison Construction's new era under Brandon Morrison." A few people awkwardly lifted their glasses. Most just stared at their shoes. 3 days later, we gathered in the office of Walter Brennan, Dad's attorney for the past 30 years. The reading was scheduled for 2 p.m., but Brandon showed up at 1:30 with a U-Haul and 4 of his drinking buddies. "Thought I'd get a head start on moving into Dad's office," he announced, barging past Walter's secretary. "No point waiting." I sat in the leather chair across from Walter's desk, reviewing emails on my phone. One from our biggest client confirming the next project, another from our steel supplier about the shipment I'd ordered last week. Business didn't stop for grief. Brandon plopped down beside me, spreading his legs wide and taking up as much space as possible. "Hope you found those recipes, Jess. Mom's apple pie was legendary." "I did, actually. Also found her engineering degree from Cornell. Did you know she designed 3 of the bridges Dad's company built in the 80s? Brandon snorted. "Yeah, well, that was different times. Dad probably helped her." Walter entered precisely at 2 p.m., carrying a thick folder and wearing an expression I couldn't quite read. He'd been smiling when I'd arrived, but now his face was carefully neutral. "Thank you both for coming," he said, settling behind his desk. "Before we begin, I want to offer my condolences again. William was not just a client but a dear friend." Yeah, we're all sad," Brandon interrupted. "Can we get to the will? I've got meetings with the crew at 4. Walter's eye twitched. "Of course, let me begin with the personal bequests." He read through the smaller items: Dad's watch collection to cousin Tony, his truck to Uncle Pete, various charitable donations. Brandon fidgeted impatiently, checking his phone and sighing dramatically. "Now, regarding Morrison Construction," Walter said, and Brandon sat up straighter. "I'm going to read William's exact words, as he was very specific." Walter cleared his throat and began, "Regarding my company, Morrison Construction, which I built from nothing into a $4.5 million enterprise, I leave the following. To my son Brandon Morrison, I leave my collection of construction magazines from the 1970s, which he seemed to enjoy reading when he briefly worked for me in the summer of 2018 before quitting after 3 days because, and I quote, 'real work is beneath me.' May they inspire him to actually finish something he starts." Brandon's face went from smug to confused to bright red. "What?" Walter continued. "To my daughter Jessica Morrison, I leave 100% ownership of Morrison Construction, all its assets, equipment, contracts, and accounts. This includes the main office building, the warehouse, all vehicles except the truck mentioned earlier, and all ongoing projects. What? Brandon rocketed out of his chair. That's impossible. I'm the son, the eldest child. Dad wouldn't. Please sit down, Mr. Morrison. I'm not finished. Walter's voice was stern. Your father anticipated your reaction and asked me to read this additional statement. Brandon, you've worked for my company a total of 3 days in your entire life. You showed up drunk on the second day and didn't show up at all on the third. Meanwhile, Jessica has been by my side for 15 years. She started as a laborer, learning every aspect of the business from the ground up. She got her contractor's license at 23, her engineering degree at night while working full days. She's negotiated every major contract for the past decade, manages our finances, oversees quality control, and has the respect of every person who works for us. You called it men's business, son, but business doesn't care about gender, it cares about competence, dedication, and results. Jessica increased our revenue by 300% in the last 5 years. She implemented safety protocols that haven't just saved money but saved lives. She's the reason Morrison Construction went from a small family outfit to a major regional player. The only thing you've built, Brandon, is a reputation as a drunk who coasts on his father's name. That ends today. Brandon's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. He can't do this. I'll contest it. I'll sue. Walter smiled then, and I understood why he'd been fighting to keep a straight face. Mr. Morrison, your father anticipated that as well. If you contest the will in any way, you forfeit the one thing he did leave you. What's that? Brandon asked suspiciously. A position at Morrison Construction. Jessica has been instructed to offer you an entry-level labor position at standard starting wages. You'll have the opportunity to work your way up, just like she did, just like your father did. If you last 6 months, you'll get a raise. If you last a year, you'll be eligible for promotion to crew supervisor. You expect me to work for her? Brandon's voice cracked. To take orders from my little sister? I expect you to either earn your place in this company or find something else to do with your life, I said, speaking for the first time since the reading began, just like I had to earn mine. This is bullshit. You manipulated him. You turned him against me. Walter pulled out another document. Actually, Mr. Morrison, your father recorded a video message 2 years ago, after you showed up to Christmas dinner drunk and told everyone that women in construction were just diversity hires. Would you like me to play it? Brandon's face went from red to purple. 2 years? He's been planning this for 2 years? Longer, actually. The first draft leaving the company to Jessica was written 10 years ago. He updated it periodically, always hoping you'd give him a reason to change it. You never did. I stood up, smoothing my dress. Brandon, the offer stands. Laborer position. Starting Monday, 7 a.m. sharp. Don't be late, don't be drunk, and don't expect special treatment. Go to hell. He spat. I don't need your charity. I don't need any of this. You'll run that company into the ground within a year, and I'll be there to buy it for pennies on the dollar. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off Walter's wall. Walter bent to pick it up, a photo of him and Dad at a job site, both wearing hard hats and grinning at the camera. Your father would be proud of how you handled that. He'd be disappointed it came to this at all, I said, suddenly exhausted. Perhaps, but he knew Brandon's nature, just like he knew yours. Walter handed me a sealed envelope. He asked me to give you this privately. I opened it with trembling hands. Dad's handwriting, getting shakier in his final months but still distinctly his. Jessica. By now Brandon has probably made a scene and stormed out. I'm sorry you had to deal with that, especially while grieving, but I want you to know that this decision wasn't made out of anger at Brandon or favoritism toward you. It was made out of love for the company I built and respect for the person you've become. When you were 7, you used to come to job sites with me. While Brandon complained about the noise and dirt, you asked questions. How do we know the foundation is strong enough? Why do we use this type of steel instead of that one? What happens if it rains before the concrete sets? You weren't playing at being interested, you genuinely wanted to understand. At 7 years old, you had more curiosity about construction than Brandon has shown in his entire life. I promoted you to foreman when you were 25, not because you were my daughter, but in spite of it. I knew people would talk, would say I was playing favorites, so I made sure you were twice as qualified as anyone else, and you exceeded even that standard. The men respect you not because I told them to, but because you've earned it. You've worked beside them in 100-degree heat and freezing rain. You've never asked anyone to do something you wouldn't do yourself. You've had their backs, and they'll have yours. Brandon thinks strength comes from being loud and male, but real strength comes from competence, integrity, and caring about something bigger than yourself. You have all of that. I know you'll take Morrison Construction places I never dreamed of, build something amazing, sweetheart, and if Brandon ever humbles himself enough to actually work for it, maybe help him build something too. All my love. Dad. P.S. Your mother would be so proud. She always said you'd be the one to carry on the legacy. As usual, she was right. I wiped away tears, carefully folding the letter and tucking it into my purse. There's one more thing, Walter said. Your father updated his will last month with a final codicil. He wanted to make sure you knew that Brandon has a trust fund from his maternal grandmother, about $200,000, so he's not destitute, just delusional if he thinks he can buy the company. I laughed despite myself. Of course Dad would have checked. The next few months were a whirlwind. I officially took over Morrison Construction, though in practice I'd been running most of the operations for years. The transition was seamless, clients were relieved, employees were supportive, and business continued to grow. Brandon tried to make trouble at first. He showed up drunk at job sites, telling workers they should quit before that woman destroyed their livelihoods. The foreman, Big Jim, personally escorted him off the property and told him not to come back unless he was ready to put on a hard hat and work. He tried spreading rumors that I was sleeping with clients to get contracts. Our biggest client, Margaret Chin of Chin Development, shut that down hard with a cease and desist letter and a public statement about her 20-year relationship with Morrison Construction and her complete confidence in my leadership. 6 months after the will reading, I was reviewing bids in Dad's office, my office now, when my assistant knocked. Jessica, there's a Brandon Morrison here to see you. He says he's applying for the laborer position. I looked up, surprised. Through the window, I could see Brandon in the waiting area. He was sober, wearing clean work clothes, and staring at his hands. Send him in. He entered slowly, all his earlier bravado gone. Jess, Brandon, he cleared his throat. I wanted to apologize. For the funeral, for everything after, for the last 15 years. I waited. I blew through Grandma's money in 8 months, tried to start my own company just to show you up. Turns out knowing someone who owns a construction company doesn't mean you know how to run one. No, it doesn't. I've been working for Paulson Construction in Riverside, just basic labor, but, he met my eyes for the first time. I actually like it, the work. I mean, when I'm not hungover. Are you asking for a job? I'm asking for a chance. He pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. I've been sober for 60 days. I know that's not much, but it's a start. I studied my brother. He looked different. Not just the sobriety, but something in his posture. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that might have been humility. Laborer position, starting wage, you report to Jim, and if he says you're slacking, drunk, or disrespectful, you're gone. No second chances. I understand. And Brandon, you ever speak about this being men's business again, you're not just fired. I'll personally throw you off the site. He actually smiled. Understood, boss. It's been a year now. Brandon still works for Morrison Construction. He made crew supervisor last month, earned it fair and square. He's not the best employee we have, but he shows up, does the work, and keeps his mouth shut when it counts. Last week, he brought me coffee on site. Thought you might need this, boss. It's going to be a long day with the Chin project deadline. As he walked away to join his crew, I realized something Dad probably knew all along. Brandon wasn't a bad person. He was just someone who'd been allowed to believe that his gender was a qualification rather than a chromosome. Morrison Construction is now valued at $6.2 million. We've expanded into 3 neighboring counties, hired 20 new employees, and have a backlog of projects through next year. At industry events, I still sometimes get asked if I'm the secretary or if I'm there with my husband. I just smile and hand them my card. Jessica Morrison, owner and CEO, Morrison Construction. The ones who matter don't need the card. They already know who built this company, both the man who started it and the woman who's taking it into the future. And somewhere, I'd like to think Dad and Mom are watching, probably arguing about whether the new bridge design needs additional support beams. She'd be right. Of course, she always was. Just like she was right about which of her children would carry on the legacy.
I never thought I'd hear my own son call me baggage, but life has a way of delivering its cruelest blows through the people we love most. My name is Lillian, and for 25 years, my world revolved around my son, Easton. Every decision, every sacrifice, every moment was dedicated to giving him the best life possible. I worked 2 jobs, gave up my dreams of becoming an artist, and poured everything I had into his future. And for the longest time, it felt worth it. That changed the day Andrea walked into our lives. "Mum, I want you to meet someone special," Easton had said over the phone. His voice carried that nervous excitement I hadn't heard since his first day of high school. "We're coming over for dinner tomorrow." I spent hours preparing his favorite lasagna, the recipe passed down from his grandmother. The house was spotless, and I'd even bought fresh flowers for the dining room table. The doorbell rang at exactly 6 p.m. "Mom, this is Andrea," Easton beamed, his arm wrapped around a striking young woman with perfectly styled hair and designer clothes that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Andrea's smile didn't reach her eyes. "So nice to finally meet you, Lillian. Easton's told me so much." The way she said my name, like it was something distasteful, made my stomach clench. During dinner, Andrea dominated the conversation, talking about her job in marketing and her plans to climb the corporate ladder. Every time I tried to share a story about Easton's childhood, she'd cut me off with a new topic. "Oh, those stories are so dated," she'd say, waving her hand dismissively. "Easton's focused on his future now. Aren't you, baby?" Easton would nod, avoiding my eyes. The final blow came as they were leaving. I was in the kitchen cleaning up when I overheard their conversation by the front door. "Your mom's kind of clingy, isn't she?" Andrea's voice carried through the hallway. "I mean, all those old stories and pictures everywhere. Don't you think it's time to cut the cord?" I waited for Easton to defend me, to say something, anything. Instead, he laughed. "Yeah, I guess she can be a bit much sometimes." "More like baggage," Andrea said. "You're right," Easton replied. "Maybe it is time for some changes." The plate I was washing slipped from my hands, shattering in the sink. The sound must have startled them, because their voices dropped to whispers before the front door closed. I stood there, hands trembling in the soapy water, staring at the broken pieces. 25 years of memories flashed through my mind. Midnight feedings, school plays, scraped knees, college applications, graduation day. Every moment I'd chosen him over myself. My friend Ruby called later that night, as she did every Tuesday. "You sound off," she said. "What happened?" I told her everything. "That little shit," Ruby exploded. "After everything you've done for him. Lillian, maybe it's time you showed him exactly what he's taking for granted." "What do you mean?" "Document it. Every sacrifice, every penny spent, every dream you put on hold. Make him see what he's throwing away for this girl." As I lay in bed that night, surrounded by the photos and memories Easton now seemed to find embarrassing, an idea took root. I got up and went to my closet, pulling out the old art portfolio case I'd kept all these years. Inside were the acceptance letters to art school I'd never attended, the scholarship I'd turned down to work full-time after Easton's father left. I opened my laptop and started typing. "Dear Easton, before you dismiss this as the ramblings of your clingy mother, I want you to see exactly what love looks like." The words flowed easily, years of unspoken feelings finding their way onto the page. By morning, I had the beginning of something that would either bring my son back to me or set us both free. Either way, things were about to change. Andrea wanted me gone? Fine. But first, I would make sure my son understood exactly what he was losing. Sometimes the greatest act of love is knowing when to walk away, and sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply showing someone what they've thrown away. I picked up my phone and called the number I'd been too afraid to dial for 25 years. "Hello, is this still the number for the Art Institute's adult education program?" It was time to stop being baggage and start being Lillian again. The portfolio grew thicker with each passing day, as did the distance between Easton and me. 3 weeks had passed since that dinner, and he'd only called twice, both times to cancel our regular Sunday brunches. I sat at my dining room table, surrounded by papers, photos, and receipts. Ruby perched on the chair across from me, reading through the latest addition to my collection. "Look at this," I said, sliding over Easton's college tuition statements. I took out a second mortgage to pay for his engineering degree, lived on ramen noodles for 2 years. Ruby whistled. And now he can't even make time for brunch. The doorbell rang, interrupting our conversation. Through the window, I spotted Easton's car in the driveway, with Andrea in the passenger seat. I need to grab some of my old textbooks from the basement, Easton announced as they walked in, barely meeting my eyes. Andrea's cousin might need them. Of course, I replied, quickly gathering the portfolio papers. Would you like some coffee? We can't stay, Andrea cut in, her designer heels clicking on my hardwood floors. We have dinner reservations at LeBlanc. Ruby stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. I don't believe we've met. I'm Ruby, Lillian's friend. Charmed, Andrea said, not sounding charmed at all. She turned to Easton. Baby, the reservation's at 7. We need to hurry. I followed them to the basement door, watching as Easton disappeared down the stairs. Andrea stayed behind, examining her manicure. You know, she said quietly, it's a bit sad, isn't it? Sitting around with old photos all day. Don't you have any hobbies? Before I could respond, shouting erupted from the basement. What do you mean you spent our vacation fund on a car? Easton's voice carried up the stairs. It's an investment in our future, Andrea snapped back. That beaten-up Honda of yours isn't suitable for someone in your position. What would my father think? Your father? What does he have to do with anything? He's offering you a position at his firm, Easton, but you need to look the part. That's why I used the money to put a down payment on the BMW. You did what? Easton's footsteps thundered up the stairs. That money was for our trip to Europe. Europe can wait, Andrea said, her voice honey-sweet again. This is about our future. Don't you want to succeed? I watched my son's face transform from anger to uncertainty, the same expression he'd worn as a child when someone offered him candy he knew he shouldn't take. I guess you're right, he finally said, deflating. But next time, please talk to me first. Andrea beamed victorious. Of course, baby. Now come on, we'll be late. They left without the textbooks, Easton trailing behind Andrea like a lost puppy. Ruby waited until their car disappeared before speaking. Did you record that conversation on your phone? I nodded, stopping the recording app. Added to the evidence pile. Good, Ruby said, helping me gather the scattered papers. But Lillian, watching this isn't healthy. You need to finish this portfolio and move on. Have you called the Art Institute back? I start classes next week, I admitted. Just 2 evenings to start. I haven't painted in decades. I might be terrible. But you'll be doing something for yourself, finally. Ruby picked up an old sketch I'd done of Easton as a baby. You've got talent, Lil. It's time to use it. That night, I added the recorded conversation to my portfolio, along with a letter I'd been dreading to write. Dear Easton, remember when you were 16, and that boy Tommy bullied you about your second-hand clothes? I told you that sometimes people who seem to care about us can actually be the ones hurting us the most. I wonder if you remember that conversation. I'm adding this letter to help you understand what I witnessed today. Not to hurt you, but because I love you too much to watch silently as history repeats itself. A text from Easton interrupted my writing. Sorry about today, Mum. Andrea's just stressed about work. Maybe we can do brunch next Sunday. I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the reply button. Instead, I opened my email and clicked on the Art Institute's welcome letter. The supply list for my first class stared back at me. Canvas, brushes, paints. Tomorrow, I decided, I would buy art supplies instead of groceries for Sunday brunch. It was time to paint my own future, even if it meant watching my son make his mistakes from a distance. Sometimes love means stepping back and letting karma take its course. The portfolio felt heavy in my hands as I walked up to Easton's apartment. 6 months of evidence, memories, and hard truths bound together in a leather case I'd once hoped would hold my own artwork. Ruby's words from this morning echoed in my head. You're doing the right thing, Lil. Stay strong. I knocked on the door, my heart pounding against my ribs. Andrea opened it, wearing one of Easton's old college shirts like a trophy. "Oh," she said, her smile dropping. "Easton didn't mention you were coming by." I texted him this morning. I stepped past her into the apartment I'd helped furnish, but barely recognized anymore. Designer pillows had replaced the ones I'd made. Family photos were gone, replaced by modern art prints. "Mom?" Easton emerged from the bedroom, looking surprised. "I thought you were coming next weekend." "We need to talk," I said, clutching the portfolio. "Now." Andrea moved to stand beside him. "We actually have plans." "Alone," I added firmly. Easton glanced between us, then nodded. "Give us a minute, babe." Andrea's heels clicked angrily as she retreated to the bedroom, slamming the door. We sat at the kitchen table, the one I'd refinished for his first apartment. I placed the portfolio between us. "What's this?" he asked. "Everything," I replied, opening it to the first page. "Every sacrifice, every choice, every moment that led us here." His eyes widened at the college tuition statements. "Mom, Keep reading." He flipped through the pages. Medical bills from when he broke his arm in middle school, the foreclosure notice on my dream house after his father left, bank statements showing withdrawn retirement funds to pay for his engineering internship. "There's more," I said, my voice steady despite my trembling hands. "The acceptance letter to art school I never attended, the gallery invitation I turned down, the small business loan I was approved for but never used because you needed braces that year." Easton's face paled as he reached the recent additions, screenshots of Andrea's social media posts mocking my outdated home, the recorded conversation about the vacation fund, credit card statements showing her purchases on his accounts. "I didn't know," he whispered, "about any of this." "You weren't supposed to. That's what mothers do. We shield our children from the hard parts." I took a deep breath. "But now you're not a child anymore, and I'm not just a mother." The bedroom door cracked open. Andrea's voice carried across the apartment. "Baby, we're going to be late for the reservation." Easton didn't look up from the portfolio. "Why are you showing me this now?" "Because yesterday I got this." I pulled out one final paper, my acceptance letter to the Art Institute's full-time program. "I'm moving to the city. I've already sold the house." "You're what?" He stood up so fast his chair toppled backward. "But where will I mean, what about your home, your safety net, your free storage space?" I stood too, stronger than I'd felt in years. "Those aren't my responsibilities anymore, Easton. They never should have been." "She's manipulating you." Andrea burst out of the bedroom. "Can't you see that? She's trying to make you feel guilty." "The truth isn't manipulation," I said quietly. "It's just the truth." I walked to the door, pausing with my hand on the knob. "I love you, Easton. I always will. But I love myself too, and it's time I proved it." "Mom, wait," his voice cracked. "Please, I didn't know." "That's the problem," I replied. "You never asked." The elevator ride down was a blur. Outside, Ruby waited in her car, just as promised. "Did you do it?" she asked as I slid into the passenger seat. I nodded, tears finally spilling over. "He looked so lost, Ruby, like when he was little and couldn't find his favorite toy." "Except he's not little anymore," she reminded me, pulling away from the curb. "And you're not just his toy box." My phone buzzed with messages from Easton. "Mom, please come back. We need to talk about this." "I'm sorry. Andrea's wrong about you." The last message came as Ruby pulled up to my house. My former house, now sold to a young family with 2 kids. "I found the sketch you did of me as a baby. I never knew you could draw like that. Why didn't you tell me?" I turned off my phone and looked at the moving truck in my driveway. 25 years of memories packed into cardboard boxes, ready to make way for new ones. "Ready?" Ruby asked. "No," I admitted, "but I'm doing it anyway. Sometimes the hardest part isn't making the choice. It's living with it afterward." But as I walked toward my packed-up life, I felt lighter than I had in years. The portfolio had served its purpose. Now it was time to fill a new one. With art, with dreams, with me. 3 months into my new life, and my tiny studio apartment looked more like an artist's workspace than a home. Canvases lined the walls, some finished, others waiting for inspiration. Paint stains decorated every surface, including my clothes. "You've got real talent," my art professor had said last week, studying my latest piece, a mother bird pushing her chick from the nest. "Raw, emotional. Have you considered showing your work?" I was arranging my newest paintings when Ruby burst through the door, waving her tablet. "Lillian, you need to see this." She thrust the screen at me. "Your story is trending on social media." I squinted at the article. Mother's Artistic Renaissance, from empty nest to empowerment. Someone had shared my journey on a popular parenting forum, and it had exploded overnight. "Read the comments," Ruby insisted. Hundreds of mothers shared similar stories of sacrifice and lost dreams. Many asked how they could reclaim their own identities. "This is bigger than just you," Ruby said, pacing excitedly. "What if we created a space for women like this? A community center with art classes, support groups, career counseling." "That's actually brilliant." I set down my paintbrush. "But how would we even start? I've got savings," Ruby grinned, "and you've got the story that's inspiring thousands. Let's do this." We spent the next week viewing potential spaces. The old warehouse on Mason Street caught my eye immediately. High ceilings, natural light, and enough room for studios and meeting spaces. As we explored the building, my phone buzzed. Easton's number flashed on the screen. I hadn't heard from him in weeks. "Mum?" His voice sounded different, tired. "I saw the article about your art. Why didn't you tell me you were getting so much attention?" "Would you have been interested before?" Silence stretched between us. "Andrea's father offered me that job," he finally said. "But there were conditions. I'd have to move across the country. Andrea's already looking at houses." "And what do you want?" I don't know anymore." He paused. "Your paintings, they're amazing." "That one of the mother bird. Is that how you felt?" "Still feel," I corrected gently. "I have to go, Easton. I'm looking at a property for my new project." "Project?" "A non-profit, for women who lost themselves in being everything to everyone else." More silence. Then, Can I come see your art sometime?" "The gallery showing is next Friday. You're welcome to attend." I hesitated. "Just you?" After hanging up, I turned to find Ruby watching me. "You okay?" she asked. "Better than okay." I gestured around the warehouse. "This is it. This is where we'll build something meaningful." The next few weeks passed in a blur of renovation plans, permit applications, and painting. Women began reaching out, offering to volunteer, teach classes, share their stories. Each email reinforced that we were creating something important. One evening, as I was setting up my easel in what would become the main studio, a delivery arrived. The package contained a single sheet of weathered paper. My original application to art school from 25 years ago, with a post-it note attached. "Found this while cleaning out Dad's old files. He never told you he intercepted your acceptance letter, did he?" Andrea saw me looking at it and said I should throw it away. That's when I finally understood what you meant about people who hurt us while pretending to care. "Easton." I sat down hard on my paint-splattered stool, staring at the yellowed paper. All those years wondering if I'd been good enough, and my ex-husband had simply decided for me. Ruby found me there an hour later, still holding the letter. "Look at this," I said, showing her the paper and note. She read it twice. "Are you okay?" "You know what? I am." I stood up, pinning the old acceptance letter to my inspiration board. "This isn't about what was taken from me anymore. It's about what I'm building now." "Speaking of building," Ruby smiled, "the contractor called. We can start renovations next week." I looked around the empty warehouse, already seeing what it would become. Walls filled with art, rooms buzzing with conversation and creativity, women rediscovering themselves. My phone chimed with a text from Easton. "Andrea's furious I'm not taking the job. Says I'm throwing away our future." Funny, That's exactly what you wrote about in the portfolio, isn't it? I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I picked up my brush and faced my latest canvas, a phoenix rising from ashes, its wings spread wide and proud. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting better, growing stronger, and helping others do the same. As I began to paint, I smiled, knowing that every stroke was another step forward in my own renaissance. Renaissance Women's Center. The sign gleamed in the morning sun as reporters gathered outside our newly renovated building. 6 months of hard work had transformed the warehouse into something extraordinary. Ms. Lillian, a journalist waved her microphone. Your story has inspired thousands. Did you expect this response when you first picked up your paintbrush again? Before I could answer, Ruby appeared at my side. Let's save the questions for the press conference inside. We have a ribbon to cut. The main gallery space buzzed with energy. My paintings lined the walls. The motherbird, the phoenix, and dozens more that told my story. But it was the community spaces that made me proudest. Art studios, counseling rooms, and a career center already booked solid for months. Mom? I turned to find Easton standing awkwardly by the entrance, holding something wrapped in brown paper. You came, I said, surprised. He hadn't confirmed for the opening. Alone, he added quickly. Andrea and we're taking a break. Before I could respond, a local news crew approached. Could we get an interview with both of you? The mother-son story behind this project is fascinating. Easton shifted uncomfortably. I don't deserve to be part of this story. Actually, I said, maybe you do. Our story might help others recognize toxic relationships before they lose themselves. The reporter positioned us near my motherbird painting. So, Easton, how does it feel seeing your mother's success? Honestly? He glanced at me, ashamed and proud. I was so caught up in someone else's vision of success that I forgot to see the strength that was right in front of me. And the breaking point? The reporter pressed. Finding out my girlfriend had been secretly recording my mother's embarrassing behavior to mock online. His voice cracked. She thought it was funny. I finally saw it was cruel. The reporter turned to me. And you had no idea about these recordings? Actually, I smiled sadly. They're part of the portfolio I showed him. Sometimes people reveal their true selves when they think no one's watching. After the interview, Easton handed me the wrapped package. I found this in Andrea's phone. She'd been planning to use it to humiliate you at some charity gala. Inside was a canvas print of me from months ago, crying in my old kitchen while packing boxes. Instead of shame, I felt triumph. This is perfect, I declared, immediately hanging it among my other works. Every story needs a turning point. The day flew by in a whirlwind of interviews, tours, and emotional conversations with women sharing their own stories. By evening, only a few stragglers remained, including a young mother clutching a sketchbook. I haven't drawn since my daughter was born, she admitted. My husband says it's selfish to want time for art. I used to believe that too, I said, leading her to our studio space. Let's prove him wrong. Ruby joined us, carrying enrollment forms. First class is on the house, she winked. As the woman began sketching, tears rolling down her cheeks, Easton touched my arm. Mom, there's something else you should know. He looked nervous. Andrea's been telling people you're mentally unstable, that this whole center is some kind of breakdown. She's trying to get her father's law firm involved. Let her, Ruby snapped, overhearing. We've got hundreds of women ready to testify about how this place changed their lives. Plus, the media loves Lillian's story. It's not just that, Easton continued. She's been spreading rumors about the center's finances, suggesting fraud. A commotion at the entrance cut him off. Andrea stormed in, designer heels clicking against our new hardwood floors. How dare you turn him against me, she shrieked, pointing at me. All this attention, this fake empowerment nonsense, it's pathetic. The young mother with the sketchbook stood up. Mom, I think you need to leave. Oh, shut up, Andrea snapped. You're all just sad, desperate. Security, Ruby called calmly into her phone. Main gallery, please. Andrea's face contorted. You'll be hearing from my father's lawyers. I'll make sure everyone knows what a fraud you are. Actually, Easton stepped forward, phone recording. I think you've done enough talking. As security escorted a screaming Andrea out, I turned to the young mother, who looked shaken. And that, I said, picking up a brush, is exactly why we built this place. Shall we paint? She smiled, wiping her eyes. Yes, please. Later, watching her create her first piece in years, I realized something profound. My revenge hadn't been in exposing Andrea, or even in my own success. It was in creating this space where other women could reclaim their power, one brushstroke at a time. Easton stayed until closing, helping clean up paint supplies and listening to women's stories. With each one, I saw understanding dawn in his eyes, the same understanding that had set me free. Turn on the news. Ruby's voice blasted through my phone early Monday morning. Channel 7 now. I fumbled for my remote, nearly spilling my coffee. The screen flickered to life, showing Andrea being escorted from her father's law firm in handcuffs. Allegations of embezzlement and fraud, the reporter announced. Sources say Andrea Murray had been siphoning funds from multiple client accounts, including several non-profit organizations. The investigation began after suspicious activity was noticed in accounts belonging to... My phone buzzed with another call. Easton. I switched to speaker. Mum, are you watching? I am. Are you okay? She tried to frame me. His voice shook. Used my passwords to transfer money. If I hadn't found those documents on her laptop... Wait, I sat up straighter. You're the one who turned her in. After I saw what she was planning for your center, yeah, I couldn't let her hurt anyone else. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find Ruby still in her pajamas, tablet in hand. It's everywhere, she announced, striding in. Social media's exploding. Andrea's father just resigned from his firm. And look at this. She thrust the tablet at me. On screen was Andrea's private Instagram account. Leaked screenshots showing years of manipulative behavior, including her plans to discredit me and the Renaissance Center. The karma is absolutely delicious, Ruby grinned. My phone kept buzzing with notifications. Women from the center were sharing their stories, defending our work. Local businesses were reaching out about partnerships. 3 more news stations wanted interviews. Mum? Easton was still on speaker. Can I come over? There's something I need to show you. 30 minutes later, he arrived carrying a familiar leather portfolio, the one I'd given him months ago. I've been adding to it, he said, opening it on my kitchen table. Everything Andrea did, everything I should have seen sooner, but also this. He pulled out a stack of papers, applications to local engineering firms, lease agreements for an apartment nearby, and a volunteer registration form for the Renaissance Center. I'm not taking her father's job offer, he declared. I want to build something meaningful, like you did, and... He hesitated. I want to help other people avoid what happened to us. Ruby wiped her eyes, not even trying to hide her tears. I'll get the coffee started. We've got a lot to discuss. My phone rang again, the local newspaper. Ms. Lillian, we're running a feature on Andrea Murray's downfall and its connection to your center. Would you care to comment? I looked at Easton, who nodded encouragingly. Actually, I said, I would, but not about Andrea. I'd rather talk about recognition, recognizing your worth, recognizing toxic relationships, and recognizing when it's time to stand up for yourself and others. The interview lasted an hour. By the end, the reporter was asking about our programs and how people could support the center. One last question, she said. What would you say to Andrea now? Thank you, I replied without hesitation. Sometimes our greatest adversaries become our greatest catalysts for change. After hanging up, I found Easton and Ruby had spread the volunteer forms across the table, planning new programs for the center. We could start a support group, Easton suggested, for people recovering from manipulative relationships. I could share my experience. And we've got that empty office upstairs, Ruby added. Perfect for counseling sessions. My phone pinged with a news alert. Andrea Murray faces additional charges, cyberbullying and harassment evidence surfaces. Mum? Easton looked up from the papers. Are you okay? I walked to my easel, where a new painting was taking shape, a garden growing through broken concrete. I'm better than okay, I replied, picking up my brush. For the first time in my life, everything's exactly as it should be. Ruby raised her coffee mug. To karma. To new beginnings, Easton added. To truth, I said, making the first stroke on my canvas. It always finds its way to the surface. As I painted, Easton and Ruby continued planning, their voices filled with purpose and possibility. Outside, reporters were probably still camped out, waiting for comments about Andrea's arrest. But in here, in this space filled with art and hope and healing, none of that mattered. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from the young mother who'd been at our opening. Just signed my first art commission. Thank you for showing me it's never too late to reclaim your dreams. I smiled, adding another stroke to my painting. Sometimes the best revenge isn't watching your enemies fall. It's rising so high that their actions become nothing more than footnotes in your success story. She's asking to see you, Easton said, pacing my studio at the center. Andrea, her lawyer says she wants to apologize. I set down my paintbrush, studying my son's troubled face. 2 months had passed since Andrea's arrest, and the media frenzy had finally started to die down. And what do you think about that? I asked. I think she's manipulating again. He stopped pacing, running his hands through his hair. The sentencing is next week. She's probably hoping for character statements to reduce her jail time. Ruby burst through the door, waving a newspaper. Have you seen this? Andrea's father is claiming she has a personality disorder, trying to get her charges reduced. Of course he is, I sighed, turning back to my canvas, a woman breaking free from chains. What do you think, Ruby? Should I meet with her? Only if you're recording every second of it, Ruby declared, and I'm coming with you. The meeting was arranged for the next day in Andrea's lawyer's office. She sat across the conference table, designer clothes, replaced by a simple blouse and skirt, makeup minimal. She looked younger, almost vulnerable. Lillian, she began, voice trembling, I'm so sorry for everything. Are you sorry for what you did or sorry you got caught? Ruby asked sharply. Andrea's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Ms. Murray has prepared a statement. No statements, I interrupted. Just truth. That's all I'm interested in. Andrea's perfectly crafted facade cracked. Truth? Fine, I was jealous. You had everything I wanted. Respect, love, purpose. I thought if I could prove you were pathetic, it would make me feel better. And did it? No. Tears spilled down her cheeks. It made me worse, meaner, more desperate. When I saw your center helping other women, I couldn't stand it. Their happiness felt like a personal attack, so you tried to destroy it. Yes. She wiped her eyes. But you just kept succeeding. Every attack made you stronger. And now, she gestured helplessly at her surroundings. Now you're facing jail time, I finished. And you want my help to avoid it. I want a chance to change, she whispered, like you did. I pulled out an envelope I'd prepared, sliding it across the table. Read it. Andrea's hands shook as she opened the letter. Dear Andrea, I'm willing to speak at your sentencing, but not to request leniency. Instead, I'll tell the truth about your actions, their impact, and what I believe you need. You need consequences. You need time to reflect. Most importantly, you need to understand that true strength isn't about tearing others down. If you're serious about changing, here's my offer. While you serve your time, take classes, get counseling, write down your story, not as a victim, but as someone who chose the wrong path and wants to find a better one. When you're released, if you've done the work, there will be a place for you at the Renaissance Center. Not as a client, but as a cautionary tale, and eventually, perhaps, as proof that people can change. The choice is yours. Lillian. Andrea stared at the letter for a long moment. You'd really give me a chance? After everything? Everyone deserves a chance to rebuild, I said, standing. But first, they need to face what they've torn down. Outside the office, Ruby grabbed my arm. Are you sure about this? No, I admitted, but redemption has to start somewhere. My phone buzzed. A text from Easton. How did it go? Come to the center, I replied. There's something I need to show you. An hour later, Easton stood in our newest exhibition space, surrounded by artwork created by women from our programs. In the center was my latest piece, a mirror cracked into pieces, each shard reflecting a different aspect of healing. Andrea asked for help, I told him. I offered her a path, not a pardon. You're a better person than me, he said quietly. I don't know if I can forgive her. Forgiveness isn't about erasing the past, I replied, touching the mirror's frame. It's about choosing your future. Ruby appeared with coffee and forms for our newest program, Breaking Free, Recovery from Toxic Relationships. Speaking of futures, she smiled, we've got 20 women signed up already. Easton picked up a brush from my easel. Need any help with the beginner classes? Always, I said, watching my son dip the brush in paint, making his first tentative stroke on a blank canvas. Sometimes confronting your demons isn't about winning or losing. It's about standing firm in your truth and offering others the chance to find theirs. As I watched Easton paint, I realized that healing, like art, is never really finished. It just keeps evolving, one brushstroke at a time. The gallery buzzed with excitement as guests moved between the artworks, each piece telling a story of transformation. My original portfolio lay open in a glass case, a reminder of where this journey began. Mom, Easton called from across the room. They're ready for the ceremony. I made my way through the crowd, pausing briefly to squeeze Ruby's hand. She was crying already, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Don't you dare make me cry too, I warned. I still have to give a speech. The Renaissance Center's first graduation ceremony was about to begin. 28 women stood ready to receive their certificates, some in art, others in business development or counseling. Each had their own story of breaking free and finding strength. Before we begin, I addressed the crowd, I want to share something that arrived this morning. I opened a letter postmarked from the State Correctional Facility. Dear Lillian, today marks 6 months of my sentence. I've completed the counseling programs you suggested and started teaching an art therapy class here. The other inmates call me the cautionary tale. I understand now what you meant about facing what I've torn down. Every day I see the damage toxic behavior causes. Every day I choose to be different. Thank you for showing me that revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about reconstruction. Andrea, murmurs rippled through the audience. I continued. This center was born from pain, but it grew through hope. Each woman graduating today has faced their own Andrea, whether it was another person, society's expectations, or their own self-doubt. The graduates stood straighter, many holding hands. But more importantly, I gestured to Easton, who stepped forward with a stack of envelopes. Each graduate is leaving with something crucial, a future. Easton began distributing the envelopes. Inside, you'll find job offers, gallery contracts, or small business loans, whatever matches your new path. The Renaissance Center isn't just about healing the past, it's about building tomorrow. Ruby joined us, carrying a covered canvas. We have one more surprise. Lillian, would you do the honors? I unveiled the painting, a collaborative piece created by all 28 graduates, with spaces left blank around the edges. This mural will hang in our entrance, I explained. Each new graduate will add their own mark, creating an ever-growing testament to transformation. The first graduate approached the podium, tears streaming down her face. I was that young mother with the sketchbook, she said. Now I'm opening my own gallery. One by one, they shared their stories. A former corporate lawyer who'd lost herself in others' expectations. A grandmother finally pursuing her dreams after raising everyone else's children. A young woman who'd escaped an abusive relationship. Easton stepped up to the microphone. When my mother first showed me her portfolio, I thought she was trying to make me feel guilty. Instead, she was showing me how to be brave. He turned to me, holding out a small wrapped package. This is from all of us. Inside was a new portfolio case, but instead of being filled with evidence of sacrifice, it contained letters. Hundreds of them, from women whose lives had been touched by the center. "Read the last one," Ruby whispered. I opened it to find Easton's handwriting. "Dear Mom, you taught me that true strength isn't in holding on, but in knowing when to let go. When you walked away, you showed me how to walk towards something better. I'm proud to be part of this center's story. I'm prouder to be your son. Love, Easton." The room erupted in applause as I hugged him, both of us crying now. "Okay, enough tears," Ruby announced. "We've got futures to celebrate." As the graduates mingled with potential employers and gallery owners, I stood before the collaborative mural. Each piece reflected its creator's journey. Broken chains, blooming flowers, birds taking flight. "Ready to add your piece?" Easton asked, offering me a brush. I dipped it in paint, adding my contribution, a simple open door with light streaming through. "Perfect," Ruby nodded. "Now, about expanding to a second location." "Already planning ahead?" I laughed. "Always," she grinned. "The waiting list keeps growing." I looked around at my son teaching art to children of our graduates, at Ruby organizing the next phase of our growth, at the women who'd become not just success stories, but family. This was more than revenge or redemption. This was revolution, quiet, powerful, unstoppable. One canvas, one woman, one truth at a time. I picked up my brush again. There was still space on the mural, still stories to be told, still lives to be transformed. And this time, I wasn't walking away from anything. I was walking toward everything.
The text from Maya glowed on my phone. "We need to talk. It's urgent." I stared at those words, feeling the familiar twist in my stomach that came with any contact from my sister. My name is Kaya, and I've spent my entire life being the responsible one, the steady one, the boring one, at least according to my family. "Did you see Maya's latest post?" Mom's voice crackled through my phone's speaker earlier that morning. 2 million views already. The brand deals are just rolling in now. "That's great, Mom," I replied, shuffling papers at my desk in the social services office. "Listen, I need to go. I have a client coming in." "Oh, that reminds me," she cut in. "Maya needs some help with her new content schedule. Could you maybe take a few days off to help her film? You know, since your job is more flexible." I caught Dylan's eye across the office. He raised an eyebrow at my expression, already knowing who was on the phone. "Mom, I can't take time off to help Maya film TikToks. I have actual responsibilities here." "It's Instagram Reels now, honey. And this is family. Maya's about to sign with Sephora. Sephora, do you know what that could mean for her? More debt," I thought. More second mortgages on the house. More credit cards maxed out for ring lights and designer clothes that would end up in Maya's infamous closet clean-out videos. "I have to go, Mom. Real client. Real job." I hung up before she could protest. Dylan wheeled his chair over. "The Maya show still running strong?" "Stronger than ever," I sighed. "They just refinanced the house again to fund her summer content calendar, whatever that means." "Jesus," Dylan shook his head. "How much have they sunk into her influencer career now?" "I stopped counting after the second mortgage. But hey, what do I know? I just help actual people with actual problems for a living." Emma, my supervisor, called me into her office then. As I walked in, I caught my reflection in the window. Sensible blazer, practical haircut, the opposite of Maya's carefully curated aesthetic. Emma was reviewing a case file. "Your work with the Thompson family has been exceptional," she said, looking up. "The mother specifically requested to thank you, said you changed their lives." I smiled, but before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. Maya's face filled the screen. a perfect selfie she'd spent hours staging for her profile picture. "Sorry, I should take this," I told Emma, stepping out. "Maya?" "Kaya!" Her voice was tight, controlled panic. "I need you to wire me $5,000, like today." "What? Why?" "The collab house in LA is raising rent, and if I leave now, I'll lose all my connections. Mom and Dad already said they can't help this time." "Because they have nothing left to give you," I said flatly. "The house. God, you're so dramatic. It's called investing in your future. Not that you'd understand, stuck in that depressing office all day." I watched through the window as Dylan helped a young mother fill out housing assistance forms. "You're right, Maya. I wouldn't understand investing hundreds of thousands in followers and likes while our parents lose everything." "Whatever. Are you going to help me or not?" "Not." She hung up. Minutes later, the text arrived. "We need to talk. It's urgent." I showed Dylan the message during lunch. He pushed his sandwich aside, leaning forward. "You know what this means, right? The house of cards is finally falling." "Maybe," I said, but something else was forming in my mind, something that had been building for years of watching, waiting, saving. "Hey, you still know that real estate agent? The one who handles foreclosures?" "Rodney? Yeah, why?" I pulled up my banking app, looking at the careful savings I'd accumulated over years of living below my means. "I think I might need his number." Dylan's eyes widened as he understood. "Kaya, are you thinking what I think you're thinking?" "They always said that house was Maya's stage," I said quietly. "Maybe it's time for a change in ownership." My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. I let it go to voicemail, already knowing what it would say. More panic, more demands, more guilt. But for the first time in my life, I felt something other than resignation. I felt ready. "Get me Rodney's number," I told Dylan. "I think it's time I made an investment of my own." The first sign of Maya's downfall came during a live stream. I wasn't watching, I never did, but the clips spread everywhere. My sister, caught in 4K, mocking her followers for being too poor to buy her merchandise. The internet's response was swift and merciless. "It's all being taken out of context," Mom insisted when I visited that weekend. I could hear her pacing in the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear. "Maya, sweetie, we'll hire a PR team. We'll fix this." I sat in the living room, surrounded by the remnants of Maya's latest photo shoot, designer clothes with tags still attached, scattered across the furniture. A stack of unopened bills sat on the coffee table. "What do you mean Sephora's pulling out?" Mom's voice cracked. No, we can't lose them. Maya, listen to me." The sound of something shattering in the kitchen made me jump. I found Mom standing amid broken glass, her phone still clutched in her hand. "Mom, are you okay?" She looked at me like she'd forgotten I was there. "Your sister, they're saying her followers are fake, that she bought them. They're all dropping her." "The sponsors?" "Everyone!" She grabbed my arm. "Kaya, you have to help. You're good with computers, right? There must be something you can do to fix this." I gently removed her hand. "This isn't a technical problem, Mom. It's a reality problem." Later that night, I found Dad in his study, staring at a letter. His hands were shaking. "Dad?" He looked up, his face ashen. "The bank. They're foreclosing on the house." "What?" "We thought Maya's Sephora deal would cover the payments, but now—" He crumpled the letter. "Don't tell your mother, please." I drove home in a daze, pulling over twice to throw up. Not from shock, I'd seen this coming for years, but from anger, pure, crystallizing anger. The next morning I called Rodney. "Foreclosures are tricky," he said over coffee. "But if you're serious about buying, I can help you navigate the process. You'll need proof of funds." I slid a folder across the table. 6 years of savings, solid credit score, pre-approval letter from my bank. I've been preparing for something like this. Rodney whistled as he reviewed the documents. "You're really going to buy your parents' house?" "They're not just losing a house," I said. They're losing Maya's studio, her content creation space, her dream factory. I'm buying back reality. That evening, Maya went live again. This time she was crying, claiming cyberbullying and cancel culture. The comments were brutal. Exposed, fake followers. Check her social blade. She lost 500K followers overnight. My phone rang. It was Samantha, Maya's former manager. Your sister is toxic, she said without preamble. I tried to warn your parents months ago, but they wouldn't listen. Do you know she faked sponsorship contracts to get them to invest more? My hand tightened around the phone. What? Inflated numbers, photoshopped brand deals. She showed them fake revenue statements to keep the money flowing. I have proof. I thought about the second mortgage, the refinancing, the credit cards. Send me everything. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and started the foreclosure paperwork. Dylan texted, "You sure about this?" Before I could respond, Mom called. "Kaya, we need you to move back home," she said. "Maya's coming back from LA. We need to present a united front while she rebuilds her brand." No. What do you mean, no? We're family. Family? I laughed. For years, I watched you drain every resource into Maya's fantasy. Now reality's here, and suddenly you remember I exist? You're being selfish. I'm being smart, I said, and I'm done being invisible. I hung up and finished the paperwork. My hands were steady as I typed in the bid amount, exactly what the bank was asking, not a penny more. Years of watching, waiting, and saving had led to this moment. My phone pinged with an email from Rodney. Bid submitted. Now we wait. I walked to my window, looking out at the city lights. For the first time, I felt powerful, not from anger or revenge, but from the quiet strength of patience rewarded. Another text from Dylan. Whatever happens, I'm proud of you. I smiled, thinking of Maya's favorite saying from her influencer days. Sometimes you have to risk it all for the perfect shot. Well, sister, I thought, let's see who risked better. Maya's return home wasn't the triumphant comeback she'd planned. I watched from my car as she dragged designer suitcases up the driveway, her face hidden behind oversized sunglasses despite the cloudy day. No camera crew, no adoring fans, just Mom rushing out to help while Dad carried in boxes labeled ring lights and streaming equipment. I waited until they were inside before walking up to the door. Mom answered my knock with forced cheerfulness. "Kaya, we were just about to call you. Come in, come in. Maya's setting up her new content studio in the dining room." The dining room where we used to have family meals was now a maze of ring lights, backdrops, and tangled cords. Maya sat cross-legged on the floor, scrolling through her phone. "Only lost another 1,000 followers today," she announced to no one in particular. "The comeback starts now. That's why we wanted to talk to you," Mom said, ushering me to sit. "We're launching Maya 2.0, more authentic, more real. And we thought, what better way to show that than a series about family?" I felt my stomach drop. "What?" Maya finally looked up. "It's perfect, right? Finding My Way Home, a documentary-style series about reconnecting with my roots. You'll be like the grounded sister who helps me rediscover what matters." "Absolutely not." "Kaya," Mom pleaded, "this could save everything. The house that's in foreclosure?" I watched their faces freeze. "Yeah, I know about that." Dad stepped forward. "We were going to tell you." "When? After you lost it completely?" I stood up. "How much money did you pour into Maya's career while lying to me?" "It wasn't lying," Maya snapped. "It was protecting our family brand. Not that you'd understand marketing." "Marketing?" I laughed. "Is that what we're calling fraud now?" The room went silent. Maya's phone slipped from her hand. "What did you say?" Mom whispered. "Ask Maya about the fake contracts. Ask her about the inflated revenue statements she showed you to keep the money flowing. Samantha told me everything." Maya jumped up. Samantha's lying. She's just jealous because I fired her. She quit, I corrected, right before everything fell apart. Funny timing, isn't it? Enough! Dad shouted, making us all jump. He never raised his voice. Kaya, if you're not here to help, then why are you here? I looked around the room, at Mom's desperate face, Maya's defensive posture, Dad's defeated slump. I came to say goodbye to the house, and to tell you not to bother asking me for money. But you have savings, Mom said. We're family. Family? I pulled out my phone and played the clip, Maya mocking me on a podcast last year. My sister? Oh God, she's like so basic. Literally works in some depressing government office, helping poor people or whatever. Couldn't be me. Maya had the grace to look away. That was just content. Everything's just content to you, isn't it? Well, here's some reality. I'm done. Done being your backup plan, your ATM, your boring sister plot device. Find another way to save yourselves. I walked to the door, but Mom grabbed my arm. Please, Kaya, we need you. Maya needs you. Just a small loan. No. I gently removed her hand. Maya's not the only one who can set boundaries. Boundaries? Maya scoffed. Is that what they teach you in social worker school? How to abandon your family? My phone buzzed. A text from Rodney. Bid accepted. Congratulations. You got the house. A calm settled over me as I turned to face them one last time. You know what they taught me? How to recognize toxic patterns, how to protect myself, and most importantly, how to let people face the consequences of their own actions. What's that supposed to mean? Maya demanded. It means goodbye. I opened the door. You should start packing. The bank will want you out soon. Wait, Dad called as I reached my car. What do you know about the foreclosure? I didn't answer. Let them wonder. Let them worry. Let them finally feel what I'd felt all these years. Uncertainty, powerlessness, invisibility. Dylan was waiting at my apartment with takeout and wine. How'd it go? Exactly as expected. I showed him Rodney's text. I own their house. He poured 2 glasses. To karma. To patience, I corrected, thinking of Maya's face when I mentioned the contracts. The long game always wins. My phone lit up with text from Mom, pleading, angry, desperate. I turned it off and took a long sip of wine. The real show was about to begin, and for once, I had front row seats. The day they had to leave, I timed my arrival perfectly. Maya was loading the last of her ring lights into a rental truck, while Mom supervised the movers carrying out furniture. Dad sat on the front steps, head in his hands. None of them noticed my car pulling up, or Rodney walking beside me up the driveway. Just a few final signatures, Rodney announced, making them all turn. Mom dropped the clipboard she was holding. Kaya, what's going on? Who is this? Rodney Fox, real estate agent, he said, extending his hand. No one took it. I'm here to complete the transfer of ownership. Maya stepped forward, her designer sunglasses slipping down her nose. Transfer of what? I pulled the keys from my pocket, letting them catch the morning light. The house. I bought it. The silence that followed was deafening. Dad stood up slowly, his face pale. That's not possible. Actually, it is. Rodney opened his briefcase. Ms. Ramirez's bid was accepted by the bank 2 weeks ago. All the paperwork is finalized. You? Maya's voice cracked. You're the buyer? Mom rushed forward, grabbing my shoulders. Honey, this is perfect. You can stop this whole foreclosure nonsense. We can stay. I stepped back, breaking her grip. No, you can't. But we're your family. Family? I looked at the house, my house now. Was I family when you remortgaged my college fund for Maya's first PR team? When you skipped my graduation because Maya had a brand meeting? When you told me my career choice was embarrassing? That was different, Maya protested. I was building something. You were destroying something, I corrected. Our parents' financial security, their retirement, their home. Well, my home now. Dad finally spoke, his voice hollow. Where are we supposed to go? Maya has millions of followers, right? I smiled. I'm sure they'll help. This is cruel, Mom whispered. This isn't you, Kaya. You're right. The old Kaya would have helped, would have given you her savings, moved back home, played the supportive sister in Maya's comeback story. But that Kaya is gone. Rodney cleared his throat. We should complete the paperwork before the movers finish. Maya stormed up to me, tears streaking her makeup. You planned this. All along you were just waiting. Like you waited? Watched Mom and Dad drain their accounts, lose their retirement, risk everything for your brand? I met her gaze steadily. At least I was honest about it. Please, Mom tried again. We can work something out. A rental agreement. No. I turned to Rodney. Where do they need to sign? The next few minutes were a blur of paperwork and stilted signatures. Maya filmed the whole thing on her phone, probably planning some revenge post. I didn't care. The keys, I said finally, holding out my hand. Dad placed them in my palm, his hand shaking. You're really doing this. You can pick up your mail from the porch, I said, walking past them to unlock my front door. But don't come inside. This isn't over, Maya called after me. You have no idea what you've done. I turned in the doorway, my doorway now. Actually, I do. I bought back every moment you made me feel small, every time you chose her over me, every sacrifice I was expected to make for the family while she burned through your money. I bought it all, and now I own it. You'll regret this, Mom said, but her voice wavered. No. I stepped inside, feeling the weight of the house around me. I won't. I watched from the window as they loaded the last boxes. Maya went live on her phone, probably spinning some victim narrative. Mom kept looking back at the house, as if waiting for me to change my mind. Dad just stared straight ahead, already defeated. My phone buzzed. Dylan. Need company? Not yet, I texted back. I need to feel this first. I walked through the empty rooms, touching walls that had witnessed years of my invisibility. The dining room where Maya's ring lights had left marks on the hardwood. The kitchen where Mom had planned countless content strategies while ignoring my achievements. The living room where Dad had signed away their future, one contract at a time. All mine now. Outside, engines started. I didn't watch them leave. Instead, I walked to Maya's old room, the biggest bedroom, of course, and began ripping down the LED strips and backdrop hooks. Time to redecorate, time to reclaim, time to make this house what it always should have been. A home. You're going to want to see this, Dylan said, holding up his phone as he walked into my newly painted living room. 3 weeks had passed since I'd taken possession of the house. I set down my paintbrush. What now? He pressed play on a video. Maya sitting in someone's podcast studio, mascara running down her face. My own sister, she sobbed, manipulated our family and stole our generational home. She waited until we were vulnerable. Turn it off, I said, but Dylan shook his head. Keep watching. The host leaned forward. But isn't it true that your parents lost the house due to multiple mortgages taken out to fund your influencer career? Maya's face shifted. That's not... You don't understand. I was building an empire. An empire built on fake followers and forged brand deals? The camera caught Maya's flinch perfectly. She ripped off her microphone and stormed out, but not before screaming, "This interview is over. My lawyer will be in touch." Dylan stopped the video. It's going viral. The comments are not kind. I picked up my paintbrush again, continuing to cover the hot pink accent wall Maya had insisted on. Good. You don't seem worried. About what? Maya threatening legal action? Let her try. I have the paperwork, the bank records, and Samantha's evidence about the fake contracts. Dylan started helping me paint. Speaking of Samantha, she called the office looking for you today. My hand froze mid-stroke. What did she want? Wouldn't say, just that it's important. We worked in silence for a while, transforming the garish pink into a calm sage green. The whole house was slowly changing. Maya's content creation spaces becoming actual living areas, the cluttered makeup room now a home office, the backyard finally cleared of abandoned ring lights and tripods. "Remember when she filmed that skincare ad here?" Dylan asked, pointing to a spot by the window. "The one where she pretended to wake up looking perfect?" "Took 17 takes," I said. Mom kept bringing her green smoothies between shots while I studied for my social work licensing exam in the garage because the lighting was too harsh inside. "And now look at you." I stepped back to admire our handiwork. "Yeah, look at me." My phone buzzed, an email from Samantha. "Maya's planning something. Call me ASAP." Before I could respond, a notification popped up. Maya had tagged me in a post. The image showed her sitting in what looked like a lawyer's office, caption reading, "The truth about family betrayal coming soon. Time to expose the real villain in this story. Justice is coming. Family over everything." Dylan read it over my shoulder. "She's bluffing." "Of course she is." I opened my banking app, checking the house payment schedule. All on track. "She has nothing." "Still," he said, "maybe call Samantha. Better to know what we're dealing with." I was about to agree when someone knocked on the door. Through the window, I saw Mom standing on the porch, clutching her purse. "I'll get rid of her," Dylan offered, but I shook my head. "No, I've got this." Mom looked smaller somehow, her designer clothes replaced with department store basics. "Kaya, please, just hear me out." "Why? So you can guilt me about Maya's latest meltdown?" "No, She glanced past me into the house, seeing the changes. "You painted?" "Yes. It looks nice, peaceful." She twisted her hands together. "Maya's talking about suing you. She's meeting with lawyers, making wild claims." "Let her." "You don't understand. She's desperate. When people are desperate—" "Like you were?" I cut in. "Desperate enough to drain your retirement, refinance 3 times, ignore every red flag because Maya promised you fame?" Mom's shoulders slumped. "We made mistakes." "No, you made choices, and now you're living with them." "Andrea?" Dylan called from inside. "The mail's on the porch, like always." Mom flinched at the dismissal. I needed you to know what's coming." "I've always known what's coming, Mom. I just prepared for it better than you did." As she turned to leave, my phone buzzed again. "Samantha." "Maya's going nuclear. She's planning to claim elder abuse, saying you manipulated your parents during a mental health crisis. Call me." I watched Mom walk away, her steps heavy. Inside, Dylan was already on his laptop, pulling up legal resources. "We should probably get ahead of this," he said. I looked around my house, my peaceful, quiet house, and felt a strange calm. Maya wanted nuclear? Fine. She wasn't the only one with evidence to share. "Call Samantha," I told Dylan. "It's time to show Maya what real consequences look like." Samantha's office looked exactly like you'd expect for a social media manager. Motivational quotes on the walls, a ring light permanently positioned by her desk, and a wall of photos featuring her with various influencers. Maya's photo was conspicuously absent. "Elder abuse?" Emma said, reviewing the documents spread across Samantha's desk. I'd asked my supervisor to join us, knowing her social work expertise might help. "That's a serious accusation." "It's also completely false," Samantha replied, pulling up emails on her laptop. "Look at these exchanges between Maya and her parents. She's the one who pressured them into taking out loans, refinancing the house, maxing out credit cards." Dylan leaned forward. "How much evidence do you have?" "Everything." Samantha turned her screen toward us. Fake contracts she created to show sponsors, inflated engagement numbers, even scripts she wrote for her parents to read when banks questioned their loan applications. "Why didn't you come forward sooner?" I asked. Samantha's face tightened. "I tried, sent anonymous tips to some sponsors, warned your parents directly, But Maya, she's convincing when she wants to be, and they wanted to believe so badly. Emma picked up one of the contracts. This is straight up fraud, which is exactly why she won't actually sue, Dylan said. She can't risk this coming out in Discovery. My phone buzzed, a text from Maya. Last chance, sis. Back off, or everyone learns what kind of person you really are. I showed it to the others. Samantha laughed darkly. She's desperate. Her new manager called me yesterday trying to do damage control. Apparently, Maya's been approaching brands with a comeback story about family betrayal. No one's biting. Because they've seen the podcast Meltdown, Dylan added. Not just that. Samantha pulled up another document. Remember those fake followers? The brands did their homework this time. They know her engagement rates were artificially inflated. She's radioactive in the industry now. Emma touched my arm. Are you sure you want to fight this? Sometimes family conflicts are better resolved privately. She made it public, I said, pointing to Maya's latest Instagram story, a tearful monologue about toxic family members and the truth coming soon. Then let's end it publicly, Samantha said. She opened a folder labeled Insurance Policy. I kept everything, every manipulated screenshot, every fake contract, every threatening message to sponsors who questioned her numbers. The question is, are you ready to use it? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Dad. Kaya, his voice was tired. Maya's saying she's going to sue you for emotional distress. Claims you deliberately targeted her when she was vulnerable. Is that what she told you? I don't know what to believe anymore. He paused. The bank called. They're investigating the loan applications we submitted. Something about fraudulent documentation. I met Samantha's eyes. She nodded slowly. Dad, Maya faked the sponsorship contracts you showed the bank. She inflated the numbers to get you to invest more. That's not possible. Check your email. I'm sending you proof right now. Samantha forwarded the documents while I stayed on the line. I heard Dad's sharp intake of breath as he opened them. Oh, God, he whispered. What did we do? What did we let her do? You believed in her, I said softly. She counted on that. After I hung up, the room was quiet. Emma studied the contracts while Dylan and Samantha exchanged looks. She'll self-destruct when this comes out, Dylan warned. She's already self-destructing, I replied. The only difference is now she won't take anyone else down with her. My phone lit up with a voicemail from Maya. You think you've won, but I've got one last surprise for you. Hope you're ready for everyone to see who you really are. Samantha raised an eyebrow. Shall we show her who she really is first? I looked at the evidence spread across the desk. Years of manipulation and lies, carefully documented. The weapon Maya never thought her former manager would use. Do it, I said. Emma squeezed my hand. Are you sure? This will change everything. Everything already changed, I replied, thinking of my quiet house, my peaceful mornings, my life finally free from Maya's chaos. Now it's time for the truth to catch up. Samantha began typing an email to her media contacts. Dylan pulled up Maya's latest threatening post on his phone. Emma reviewed the legal implications one more time. And I felt nothing but calm. Maya wanted to go nuclear? Fine. But she'd forgotten one crucial detail. She wasn't the only one who'd been keeping receipts. Maya's expose livestream started exactly as expected, with perfect lighting, carefully crafted tears, and a prepared speech about family betrayal. I watched from my office with Dylan and Emma, while Samantha monitored the comments remotely. My own sister, Maya's voice cracked perfectly on cue, took advantage of our family's darkest moment. She manipulated our vulnerable parents, stole our generational home. Comments are turning, Samantha texted. People are asking about the mortgages. Right on time, the first news article dropped. Influencer burnout, the real cost of social media fame. Complete with documentation of Maya's fake contracts, inflated numbers, and the trail of financial destruction she'd left behind. Maya's livestream faltered as comments began flooding in with links to the article. That's not, she stammered, reaching for her phone. Those documents are fake. They're not, I typed in the comments section. And you know it. The viewer count doubled, then tripled. Maya's carefully constructed narrative crumbled in real time as more media outlets picked up the story. Your parents refinanced their home 3 times, one commenter wrote, to fund your fake career? Those contracts were forged, another added. You could go to jail. Maya's perfect facade cracked. You don't understand. I was building something. Kaya was jealous. She always has been. Jealous of what? I commented. The fraud, the fake followers, the way you bankrupted our parents. The live stream chat exploded. Maya's hands shook as she tried to delete comments, but they came too fast. Show's over, Samantha messaged. Her manager just dropped her publicly. Maya's phone buzzed visibly on screen, probably seeing the news herself. Her face went pale. This isn't... I can explain. She looked directly into the camera. Kaya, what have you done? Told the truth, I typed. Something you should try sometime. The stream ended abruptly. Minutes later, my phone rang. Mom. Did you see? Her voice was hollow. Yes. The bank called. They're investigating the loan applications for fraud. Your father, he's talking about calling a lawyer himself to protect us from Maya. I closed my eyes. Good. Good? Mom's voice cracked. Our family is falling apart. No, Mom. It fell apart years ago. You just didn't want to see it. A notification popped up. Maya's Instagram was gone. Deleted. Her Twitter, too. The carefully curated empire vanishing with a few clicks. She's running, Dylan observed. Let her, Emma said. The truth will follow. My phone buzzed again. Dad this time, but not calling. A text. I'm sorry for everything. You were right all along. Before I could respond, Samantha called. Maya's former sponsors are coming forward. Apparently, she didn't just fake contracts with your parents. She forged brand deals, too. It's going viral. I walked to my window, looking out at my quiet street, my peaceful house. Is it wrong that I don't feel bad? No, Dylan stood beside me. They chose this, all of it. Another text came through from Maya, her last words before disappearing completely. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything. No, I typed back. You did that yourself. I just bought the house. Hours later, as the story spread across every platform Maya once dominated, Mom appeared on my porch. This time, she didn't knock. She just left an envelope and walked away. Inside was a letter. You were always the strong one, the smart one. We were wrong, so wrong. I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know I see you now. I'm sorry it took losing everything to finally see. Dylan read it over my shoulder. Are you okay? Yeah, I realized I meant it. I really am. My phone lit up with a final notification, a local news headline. Social media star Maya deletes all accounts amid fraud allegations, family controversy. Emma called to check on me. The truth isn't always pretty, she said, but it's always necessary. I looked around my house, my quiet, peaceful house, and felt the last weight lift. Maya's empire of lies had crumbled. Mom finally saw clearly. Dad was facing reality. And me? I was exactly where I needed to be. Want to help me plant that garden tomorrow? Dylan asked, knowing I'd always dreamed of transforming the backyard Maya had used for photo shoots. Yeah, I smiled. It's time to grow something real. Outside, the sun set on Maya's last day of fame, while inside, I felt nothing but peace. Sometimes karma doesn't need your help. Sometimes you just need to buy the house and wait for truth to do its work. The first flowers in my garden bloomed on the same morning Dad's lawyer called. Maya had been found in Miami, trying to rebuild her influencer career under a new name. It hadn't worked. She's agreed to cooperate, the lawyer said. She'll sign a confession about the fraudulent loans to protect you and your wife from liability. I knelt in the dirt, touching the soft petals of a newly opened peony. And? She's asking to come home, to apologize. The garden stretched before me, rows of flowers where Maya's ring lights once stood, herbs replacing her backdrop stands, life growing where artifice once ruled. No, I said simply. This is my home now. Dylan arrived with coffee and bagels, finding me still in the garden. You're up early. Maya wants to apologize. He sat on the garden bench we'd built together. And nothing. Some things can't be fixed with an apology. My phone buzzed. Emma. Turn on the news. The local station was running a feature. Social media, the hidden cost of influence. They interviewed former influencers, including Samantha, about the culture of fake metrics and financial destruction. Maya's story was the cautionary tale. Still feel weird seeing our family drama out there? Dylan asked. No, I realized. It needed to be seen. The doorbell rang. Mom stood on the porch, holding a small plant. It's a peace lily, she said before I could speak. I remember you always wanted one, but Maya said they didn't look good on camera, so you never got one? She nodded, eyes on the garden. You've made this place beautiful, real. That was the point. Your father and I, she paused. We're selling Maya's equipment, all of it. Using the money to start paying you back for... Keep it, I said. Use it for therapy instead. She blinked back tears. Would it be okay if I came by sometimes to help with the garden? I thought about all the times I'd wanted her attention, her approval, her love. The herbs need weeding on Saturdays. She nodded, understanding the boundary, the limited invitation. Thank you. After she left, Dylan helped me plant the peace lily. You're different now, he observed. Better different or worse different? Stronger different. He brushed dirt from my cheek. Happier different. My phone lit up with a text from Dad. The lawyer has Maya's signed confession. It's over. But it wasn't over. Not really. It was just settled. Like soil after rain, like roots finding their place. Want to hear something funny? I asked Dylan. Maya used to say this house was her stage, and now it's my sanctuary. I looked around at the home I'd reclaimed, not because I took it from them, but because I made it mine. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Samantha, holding a folder. Maya's trying to rebrand again, she said, but no one's buying it, literally. She can't get sponsors, can't get followers, can't even get a regular job because her fraud story is all over the internet. That's not my problem anymore. Samantha smiled. No, it's not, but this is. She handed me the folder. The documentary people want to interview you, about rebuilding after family trauma, about finding strength in silence while influencer culture destroys families. No, I said immediately. Good answer. She tucked the folder away. Just wanted to make sure you meant everything you said about choosing peace. Dylan brought out more coffee, and we sat in the garden, watching bees visit the flowers that now grew where Maya once staged her perfect morning routine shots. You know what the best revenge turned out to be? I said. What's that? Living well. Actually living, not just performing life for likes. My phone buzzed one last time. Maya, from a new number. I hope you're happy in my house. I looked at the message, then at my flourishing garden, my peaceful home, my real life built on quiet strength rather than viral moments. It was never your house, I typed back. You just used it as a backdrop. I made it a home. Then I blocked her number, put down my phone, and turned to Dylan. Help me plant these new roses? He grinned. Always. The morning sun warmed my skin as we worked. No ring lights needed, no cameras rolling, no performance required. Just real growth, real peace, real life. They used to call this house Maya's stage. Now it's my sanctuary, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
The steady beep of monitors pulled me from darkness. My eyelids felt like they were weighted with lead, but I forced them open, squinting against the harsh fluorescent lights above. A nurse's silhouette swam into focus, her gasp echoing in the sterile hospital room. "She's awake! Doctor, she's awake!" My name is Zoe, and I died for 2 minutes before they brought me back. At least, that's what they told me later. The car accident had left me in a coma for 8 months, though it felt like I'd just closed my eyes yesterday. "Welcome back, Zoe," the doctor said, shining a pen light in my eyes. "You've been through quite an ordeal. Can you try speaking for me?" My throat felt like sandpaper. "Water," I managed to croak. The next few days passed in a blur of tests, physical therapy, and well-meaning medical staff treating me like I might break. But something felt off. The way they'd exchange glances when I asked about Tom, my husband, the way they'd change the subject when I mentioned Emily, my best friend since college. It wasn't until I overheard 2 nurses talking outside my room that my world truly shattered. "Poor thing," one whispered. "Can you imagine? Her husband married her best friend while she was in here fighting for her life." "I heard they're living in her house now," the other replied. "The one her grandmother left her." The words hit me like physical blows, but I kept my breathing steady, my face neutral. Years of corporate negotiations had taught me how to mask my emotions. Inside, though, I was screaming. A young aide named Elise came in to check my vitals. She had kind eyes and a gentle touch that reminded me of my grandmother. "Elise," I said, keeping my voice casual, "could I borrow your phone, just for a minute? Mine was destroyed in the accident, and I'd love to check my email." She hesitated. "We're not supposed to—" "Please? I just want to see if my work contacts have reached out." "I won't tell anyone you helped me." Her compassion won out. As soon as she handed me her phone, I went straight to Facebook. There it was, posted 6 months ago. "Tom Moore and Emily Warner are married." The photo showed them beaming outside our house, champagne glasses raised high. Emily wore a white dress that I recognized from our shopping trips together. Tom had on the watch I'd given him for our 5th anniversary. I handed the phone back to Elise, my hands steady despite the rage burning through my veins. "Thank you." "Are you okay?" she asked, noticing something in my expression. "Perfect," I replied, smiling. "Just perfect." That night, as I lay in my hospital bed, memories flooded back. Emily helping me pick out furniture for the house my grandmother had left me. Tom and I planning our future there, talking about the children we'd raise in those rooms. The 3 of us sharing countless dinners, laughing, trusting. A nurse came in to adjust my IV. "Your husband called earlier," she said cheerfully. "He and his wife want to visit tomorrow." "His wife," I repeated, my voice steady. "Of course. What time should I expect them?" "Around 2. "Perfect. Could you help me with something? I'd like to look my best for their visit." The nurse smiled, probably thinking I was trying to win back my husband. If she only knew. I spent that night planning, remembering my grandmother's words from years ago. "Zoe, dear, always keep your cards close to your chest. The deed to this house is your ace. Don't let anyone know about it until you need it." At the time, I'd thought she was being paranoid. Now I understood. My grandmother had seen something in Tom that I'd been too in love to notice. She'd protected me even beyond the grave. Tomorrow, Tom and Emily would walk into this room expecting to find a broken woman, grateful for their visits and support. They'd expect forgiveness, maybe even pity. After all, what could I do? I was the victim, the one who'd lost everything while lying helpless in a hospital bed. But they didn't know my grandmother's secret. They didn't know about the hidden deed, or the fact that I'd spent years building a network of loyal friends and colleagues who would stand by me. They didn't know that every fake smile and sympathetic glance they'd shared over my comatose body had only sealed their fate. I closed my eyes, feeling more awake than I had in months. Tomorrow, I'd begin my performance as the understanding, forgiving ex-wife. And while they basked in their apparent victory, I would plan their downfall. Let them come. Let them think they've won. I'll show them what it means to underestimate me. At exactly 2 o'clock, I heard their voices in the hallway. I adjusted my hospital gown, made sure my face showed just the right amount of confusion and vulnerability. "Zoe!" Emily rushed in first, arms outstretched as if to hug me. I flinched away instinctively and she stopped short. "Oh, sorry, I forgot you might be..." sensitive. Tom hung back by the door, his hand clutching a bouquet of lilies, my favorite flowers, or at least they used to be. The doctors said you might be disoriented, Tom said softly. Do you remember us? I forced my lips into a trembling smile. Of course, you're my husband, and Emily's my best friend. I paused, watching them exchange nervous glances. But something's different, isn't it? The nurses seem strange when I mention you. Emily sat on the edge of my bed, taking my hand. I wanted to snatch it away, but I let her hold it. Let her think she had the upper hand. Sweetie, we need to tell you something, she began, her voice dripping with rehearsed sympathy. While you were away, things changed. Tom and we got married, Tom blurted out. We didn't plan it, Zoe. It just happened. I pulled my hand away from Emily's, letting tears fill my eyes, not fake ones, real tears of rage that they'd mistake for sorrow. How long? 6 months ago, Emily whispered. We wanted to tell you, but you were in a coma, fighting for my life. My voice cracked perfectly. I understand. These things happen, right? They both looked relieved at my apparent acceptance. Tom stepped closer, placing the lilies on my bedside table. We've been taking care of everything. The house, your accounts. My accounts? I interrupted, making sure to sound confused rather than angry. We had to make some decisions while you were unconscious, Emily explained. The bills were piling up, and with the medical expenses. Just then, Elise walked in with my medication. She took one look at the scene and her eyes narrowed slightly. Sorry to interrupt, but Zoe needs her physical therapy now. Of course, Tom said, backing away. We'll come back tomorrow? I nodded weakly. That would be nice. As soon as they left, Elise locked the door and turned to me. I saw your face when they mentioned the accounts. Want me to do some digging? I smiled genuinely for the first time that day. Could you? Over the next few hours, Elise used her breaks to help me access online records. What we found made my blood boil. They'd drained my savings account, sold my stocks, even taken out a second mortgage on my house. Look at this, Elise pointed to a transaction. They spent $50,000 on their wedding, at your house. Using my money, I finished, my voice ice cold. There's more, she swiped through her phone. They've been posting about it all over social media. Look, here's Emily wearing your grandmother's jewelry at their engagement party. The photos showed them living my life, spending my money, sleeping in my bed. Each image was like a knife to my heart, but also fuel for the fire building inside me. Elise, I said quietly, I need one more favor. She squeezed my hand. Anything. Could you contact someone for me? A lawyer named Kevin West. Don't let Tom or Emily know. Already on it, she smiled, pulling out her phone. I've got his number right here. As Elise made the call, I remembered the last conversation I'd had with my grandmother before she passed. We'd been sitting in her garden, and she'd made me memorize Kevin's number. But Grandma, I'd protested, I have Tom to handle legal matters. She'd fixed me with a stern look. Never put all your trust in one person, dear. Keep Kevin's number, promise me. Now I understood why. My grandmother had seen through Tom's charm, through Emily's friendship. She'd known I might need protection someday. Elise ended the call and turned to me with a grin. Kevin can see you tomorrow morning. He says he's been waiting for your call. I nodded, feeling stronger by the minute. Perfect. One more thing. Could you take a photo of me like this? In the hospital bed, looking weak and confused? Why? Because when the time comes, I want evidence of exactly how vulnerable I was when they decided to steal my life. I adjusted my position to look more fragile. Make sure you get the date stamp on it. As Elise took the photo, I thought about Tom and Emily, probably celebrating their successful visit, thinking they'd managed to manipulate me once again. Let them celebrate. Every party has to end sometime. Kevin arrived early the next morning, before visiting hours. He looked exactly as I remembered, sharp suit, kind eyes, and a briefcase that had seen better days. Your grandmother would be proud, he said, pulling up a chair. She always said you were smarter than people gave you credit for. Did she tell you this might happen? He shook his head. Not exactly, but she made sure I kept certain documents safe, including the real deed to your house. My heart skipped. The real deed? The one Tom thinks he has? It's a copy. Kevin pulled out a folder. Your grandmother had the original transferred solely to your name before she passed. She also set up a separate trust that Tom knows nothing about. I leaned forward, wincing at the pain in my still healing body. How much? Enough to restart your life if needed. But here's the interesting part. I've been tracking Tom and Emily's financial moves. He spread out several documents on my bed. They've been careless, fraudulent even. Show me everything. For the next hour, Kevin walked me through their paper trail. They'd forged my signature on multiple documents, emptied accounts they had no legal right to access, and sold personal property that wasn't theirs to sell. They got sloppy, Kevin explained. Probably thought you'd never wake up. The second mortgage they took out on your house? Completely illegal since you're the sole owner. What about my grandmother's jewelry? Emily's been wearing it in photos. Kevin's eyes gleamed. That's the best part. Your grandmother cataloged every piece, with photos and appraisals. We can prove they took items specifically left to you. A knock at the door made us both jump. Elise poked her head in. Tom and Emily are in the parking lot. They're early. Perfect timing. Kevin gathered his papers. I'll file everything today. Just keep playing along, Zoe. Let them think they're in control. After he left through the back entrance, Elise helped me look appropriately disheveled. When Tom and Emily walked in, I was staring vacantly out the window. Good morning, Emily chirped, setting down a paper cup. I brought your favorite tea. I smiled weakly. That's so thoughtful. Though, I can't quite remember if I like sugar in it anymore. 2 sugars, Tom said quickly. You always took 2 sugars. Wrong. I'd switched to honey years ago after my grandmother suggested it. But I took a sip and smiled. Yes, that tastes right. Thank you. The doctors say you might be able to leave soon, Emily said, perching on my bed again. We've set up the guest room for you. The guest room? I kept my voice small, confused. In my house? Our house now, sweetie, Tom said gently. Remember? We talked about this yesterday. Emily and I are married. Right. I pressed a hand to my forehead. Sorry, sometimes things are still fuzzy. The doctors say it might take time for my memory to fully return. Emily patted my hand. Don't worry, we'll help you remember everything important. Important things like how they'd stolen my life while I lay unconscious, like how they'd spent my money on their wedding, like how Emily was wearing my grandmother's sapphire necklace right now. That's a beautiful necklace, I said softly. Emily's hand flew to it. Oh, yes. Tom gave it to me as an engagement present. How lovely. I turned to the window again, letting them see a tear roll down my cheek. I think I'm tired now. Of course. Tom stood up. We'll come back tomorrow. Maybe bring some photos to help you remember? After they left, Elise returned with my phone, a new one she'd helped me get yesterday. Kevin just texted. He's filed the initial paperwork. I nodded, wiping away the tear. Good. Now I need you to help me with something else. Remember those social media posts you showed me? I need copies, all of them. Already done, she grinned. I downloaded everything last night. The wedding photos, the vacation they took using your credit cards, Emily showing off your jewelry. Even found some interesting comments from mutual friends questioning their relationship timeline. I thought about my grandmother, how she'd always told me to keep evidence of everything. The strongest position, she'd say, is the one where you have all the proof, and they don't know you have it. One more thing, I told Elise. I need you to help me contact someone else. My old friend from college, Elise Duncan. She works in real estate now. Why her? I smiled, thinking of the party Tom and Emily had mentioned hosting next month. Because when I make my move, I want witnesses, and Elise knows everyone in our social circle. The pieces were falling into place. Tom and Emily thought they were helping a confused, grateful woman rebuild her memories. They had no idea they were actually helping me build my case against them. Let them keep thinking that. The best revenge, after all, is the one they never see coming. Zoe, oh my God! Elise Duncan burst into my hospital room, her real estate agent polish momentarily forgotten as she threw her arms around me. When your aide called, I couldn't believe it. I hugged her back, grateful for the genuine warmth. I need your help, Elise. She pulled back, her expression turning serious. I know. I've been watching them parade around your house like they own it. The parties, the renovations, they're even talking about selling it. Renovations? My hands clenched the bedsheet. They've gutted your grandmother's garden room, turned it into some kind of home gym. She pulled out her phone, showing me photos. Emily's been posting updates about their home improvement journey. The beautiful sunroom where I'd spent countless hours with my grandmother was unrecognizable. The antique furniture was gone, replaced by modern exercise equipment. The hand-painted walls were now a stark white. They're planning some big housewarming party next month, Elise continued, inviting everyone we know. They're calling it their official debut as a couple. I smiled, and Elise raised an eyebrow. She knew that smile from our college days. It meant trouble. Perfect, I said. That's exactly what I need. Who's on the guest list? Elise scrolled through her phone. Everyone from our old circle, plus Tom's business partners, Emily's new socialite friends. About 60 people total. I need you to make sure certain people attend. Can you do that? Already on it. I've been keeping in touch with the old group. Many of them feel uncomfortable about how Tom and Emily got together. They just need a little push to show their true feelings. Just then, my hospital room door opened, and Tom walked in. He stopped short at the sight of Elise. Elise, what a surprise, he managed, his smile faltering. She stood up, smoothing her skirt. Tom, I heard my dear friend was awake. Naturally, I came to visit. Of course, of course. He looked between us nervously. I just stopped by to bring Zoe some paperwork, hospital bills and such. Oh, how thoughtful, I said softly. But I'm a bit tired now. Could you leave them with the nurse? Actually, Elise cut in, as Zoe's oldest friend, I'd be happy to look them over. Make sure everything's in order. Tom clutched the folder tighter. That won't be necessary. Emily and I have it under control. I'm sure you do, Elise smiled sweetly. Just like you had everything under control while Zoe was in a coma? The tension in the room could have been cut with a knife. Tom's face reddened. I should go, he said stiffly. Emily's waiting in the car. We'll bring the paperwork tomorrow, Zoe. After he left, Elise turned to me with fire in her eyes. He's scared. They both are. They know people are talking. Good. I reached for my phone. Now, about that party. I need you to help me with something else. The guest list isn't the only thing we need to manage. For the next hour, we planned. Elise made calls, sent texts, and coordinated with my aide. By the time she left, everything was in motion. That evening, my aide helped me check my new email account. Messages poured in from old friends who'd heard I was awake. Their words were carefully chosen, hinting at their discomfort with Tom and Emily's relationship. Look at this, my aide pointed to one message. Emily's been telling people you gave them your blessing before the accident, that you'd noticed their special connection. I laughed softly. Did she now? Save that email. Kevin will want to see it. My phone buzzed with a text from Elise. Party invites just went out. Emily's calling it a new chapter celebration. You should see the guest list. Everyone who matters will be there. Perfect. Let them plan their party. Let them think they're celebrating their new life together. They have no idea they're actually planning the scene of their own downfall. Another text came through, this time from Kevin. Documents filed. Everything's ready when you are. I looked around my hospital room, at the flowers and cards from Tom and Emily, at their false sympathy and staged concern. Soon, very soon, they would learn what it means to underestimate someone they thought they'd destroyed. A new chapter celebration, I whispered to myself. How fitting. Because that's exactly what it would be, just not the chapter they were expecting. My grandmother always said timing was everything, and the time for truth was almost here. Let them plan their perfect party. Let them invite all their witnesses. They're only making my revenge that much sweeter. Music and laughter drifted through my grandmother's house, my house, as I stood in the shadows of the garden. Through the windows, I could see Tom and Emily holding court in the living room, champagne glasses glinting in their hands. My grandmother's antique chandelier cast a warm glow over their perfect party. "Ready?" Kevin asked quietly beside me. I smoothed down my black dress, chosen specifically for this moment. More than ready. Elise Duncan appeared at the garden gate, right on schedule. "Everyone's here, including all the people you wanted to witness this." I checked my phone one last time. The documents were ready to be sent with a single click. "Let's go." The three of us walked to the front door. I could hear Emily's voice carrying over the crowd. "We're so blessed to start this new chapter of our lives." I pushed open the door. The conversation died instantly. 60 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Emily's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor. "Hello, everyone," I said, my voice carrying clearly through the silence. "I hope I'm not too late for the party. It is my house, after all." "Zoe," Tom stepped forward, his face pale. "You're supposed to be in the hospital." "I was released this morning. Didn't Emily tell you?" "Oh, wait, she wouldn't know. She was too busy planning this lovely party with my money." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I saw several people pull out their phones, no doubt recording what was unfolding. Emily found her voice. "Zoe, you're confused. The doctors said your memory—" "My memory is perfect, Emily. Like how I remember this chandelier being a wedding gift from my grandmother, or how that painting you're standing under was meant for my children." I moved further into the room. "Or how about we discuss the second mortgage you took out on my house?" "We had to," Tom interjected. "The medical bills were covered by my insurance." Kevin stepped forward, opening his briefcase. "As Mrs. Moore's lawyer, I have documentation showing all medical expenses were paid through her policy. The money you borrowed went directly to funding your wedding and subsequent lifestyle." More murmurs. I saw Tom's business partners exchange glances. "This is ridiculous," Emily laughed nervously. "Tom, tell them about the deed." "You mean this deed?" I held up the document. "The original one, naming me as sole owner? The one my grandmother made sure was safe from people exactly like you?" "I can explain." Tom started toward me, but Elise Duncan stepped between us. "Careful, Tom. There are a lot of witnesses here." I looked around the room, meeting familiar faces. "Many of you have known me for years. You were at my wedding to Tom. You've been to dinner parties in this house. Some of you even helped me plan my future children's rooms that have now been converted into a home gym." Emily's new socialite friends were already edging toward the door. "But here's what you don't know," I continued. "While I was in a coma, fighting for my life, my husband and best friend not only got married, they systematically stole my life. They forged documents, emptied accounts, and sold personal items that weren't theirs to sell." I clicked the button on my phone. Everyone here just received an email with proof of everything I'm saying. Bank statements, forged signatures, social media posts showing them spending my money. It's all there. Tom lunged for his phone, panic clear on his face. "You can't." "I already did." I turned to the crowd. "You all came here tonight expecting to celebrate their new chapter. Instead, you're witnessing the end of their story." "Security is on their way," Kevin announced, his phone in hand. "Along with the police. They're very interested in those forged documents." Emily burst into tears, real ones this time. "Zoe, please. We can work this out." "Like you worked out selling my grandmother's jewelry? The pieces you're wearing right now?" I stepped closer to her. "Take them off." Her hands shaking, Emily removed the necklace and rings. As she handed them over, I saw several of our old friends recording the moment. "You have until tomorrow to remove your things from my house," I said, my voice steady. "Anything left behind will be considered abandoned property." "You can't do this," Tom's voice cracked. "Where are we supposed to go?" "That's not my problem, just like my survival wasn't your concern when you drained my accounts." I heard sirens in the distance. "I suggest you start packing." As Tom and Emily rushed upstairs, their perfect party in shambles, I turned to the remaining guests. "Thank you all for coming. The show's over, but the truth is just beginning." One by one, people filed out, many stopping to hug me or whisper words of support. By midnight, the house was empty except for me, standing in my grandmother's garden room. "You were right, Grandma. I whispered to the empty space. The best revenge is the one they never see coming. The morning after the party, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Screenshots of social media posts flooded in. Tom and Emily's perfect facade was crumbling in real time. Have you seen this? Elise Duncan burst into the kitchen, where I was having my first peaceful cup of coffee in my own home. She thrust her phone in front of me. Emily's latest post was a desperate attempt at damage control. There are two sides to every story. The truth will come out soon. The comments are savage. Elise scrolled through them. How could you marry your comatose best friend's husband? Did you really spend her money on your wedding? My favorite is, I always wondered why you two got together so quickly after the accident. A knock at the door interrupted us. Kevin walked in, looking pleased. The police want to talk to Tom about those forged signatures, and 3 of his business partners just pulled out of their deals. Good. I sipped my coffee. What about... The front door slammed open. Emily stormed in, mascara streaking down her face. How dare you? This is private property. Kevin stepped forward. You're trespassing. I lived here for 8 months. Emily's voice rose hysterically. While you were lying there useless, I took care of everything. I deserved... You deserved what? I set down my cup carefully. My house, my money, my husband. He loved me. He always loved me. We just couldn't admit it while you were alive, I finished coldly. Is that why you didn't visit me in the hospital for the first month after my accident? Were you too busy comforting my grieving husband? Emily's face went white. That's not... We didn't... Your social media tells a different story. I pulled out my phone. Look, here you are at a resort in Cabo, 1 month after my accident. Funny how you could afford that trip right after accessing my accounts. I want to make a deal, she said suddenly, her voice dropping. There are things you don't know about Tom, things that could ruin him. If you drop the charges... Are you trying to blackmail me while simultaneously asking for mercy? I laughed. You really don't know when to stop, do you? You bitch! She lunged forward, but Elise caught her arm. That's assault on video, Elise said calmly, pointing to her phone. Want to add that to your growing list of charges? Emily sagged in Elise's grip. You've ruined everything. Our reputation, our social circle. Your reputation? I stood up. You mean the reputation you built by stealing my life? By spending my money? By wearing my grandmother's jewelry to parties while I was fighting for my life? Tom said you'd understand, she whispered. He said you'd want us to be happy. Well, Tom lied, just like he lied to me about all those late nights at the office before my accident. Were you with him then, too? Her silence was answer enough. Get out of my house, Emily. Your things will be on the front lawn in an hour. Anything left behind goes to charity. You can't... I already did. I nodded to Kevin, who opened the front door. Oh, and Emily? That necklace you're wearing? It's mine, too. Her hand flew to her throat. With trembling fingers, she unclasped the delicate gold chain, another piece of my grandmother's collection, and dropped it on the counter. As she walked out, her shoulders shaking with sobs, my phone buzzed again. A text from Tom. Please, we need to talk. I can explain everything. Don't respond, Kevin advised. Let him sweat while we prepare the legal proceedings. Elise was still filming. This is better than reality TV. Half our old friends are messaging me for updates. Let them watch, I said, picking up my grandmother's necklace. Let them all see what happens when you betray the wrong person. Another text from Tom. The police are here. Please, Zoe, I'll lose everything. I showed the message to Kevin, who smiled grimly. That's the point. Looking around my kitchen, my real kitchen, not the sterile hospital room where I'd plotted this revenge, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and exhaustion. The marble counters still held Emily's coffee cup from yesterday's breakfast, a reminder of how completely they'd taken over my life. We should start cleaning, Elise suggested, reading my thoughts. Remove every trace of them. Not yet, I replied, picking up Emily's abandoned coffee cup. Let's keep everything exactly as they left it, evidence of their perfect life together, right before it all fell apart. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Emily. You'll regret this. I smiled, thinking of all the evidence we'd gathered, all the witnesses from the party, all the social media posts that couldn't be erased. "No, Emily," I whispered. "You're the one who's going to regret this." The courthouse buzzed with whispers as Tom and Emily entered, their designer clothes a stark contrast to their haggard faces. 3 months had passed since the party, and today was the final hearing. "Ready?" Kevin asked, adjusting his tie. I smoothed down my grandmother's necklace, the one Emily had worn to her wedding. "Born ready." The judge entered, and the room fell silent. Tom and Emily's lawyer, a sharp-suited woman named Rachel, stood first. "Your Honor, my clients wish to propose a settlement." "Absolutely not," Kevin interrupted. "We have evidence of extensive fraud, theft, and forgery. Mrs. Moore wants to proceed with full charges." The judge nodded. "Very well. Present your evidence." For the next hour, Kevin methodically laid out their crimes: bank statements showing transferred funds, forged signatures on legal documents, social media posts flaunting their spending. And here, Kevin presented a thick folder, are statements from 60 witnesses who attended their housewarming party, where they openly admitted to their actions. Emily burst into tears, her signature move. "We were in love. We didn't mean to hurt anyone." "Mrs. Warner," the judge's voice cut through her sobs, "being in love doesn't justify theft and fraud." Tom stood up suddenly. "It was my idea, all of it. Emily just went along with what I said." "How noble of you," I spoke for the first time. "Trying to protect her now? Where was that nobility when you were spending my money on your honeymoon?" "Zoe, please." He turned to me, eyes desperate. "We can work this out. Remember our history, our—" "Your Honor," Kevin interrupted, "I'd like to present one final piece of evidence." He played a video on the courtroom screen. It showed Tom and Emily at a real estate office 2 weeks before my accident, discussing the sale of my house. "But she'll never agree to sell." Emily's voice rang clear through the speakers. "She won't have a choice once we're married," Tom replied. "I've got power of attorney ready. One signature and everything's ours." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Emily's face went pale. "You were planning this before my accident?" I stood up, my voice shaking. "Were you hoping I'd die?" "No!" Tom reached for me, but court officers held him back. "It wasn't like that." "Order!" The judge's gavel cracked through the chaos. "I've seen enough. This court finds the defendants guilty of all charges." What followed was a blur of legal terms and numbers. Tom and Emily would have to repay everything they'd stolen, plus damages. Their assets would be frozen. They'd face possible jail time for the fraud. "Furthermore," the judge continued, "a restraining order is granted. The defendants are to have no contact with Mrs. Moore or approach her property." Emily collapsed into sobs again. Tom just stood there, shell-shocked, as his perfect world crumbled. "One more thing," I said, standing. "I want my grandmother's jewelry box, the one you kept your wedding ring in, Emily." She looked up, mascara streaking down her face. I sold it." The gallery gasped. Even Rachel, their lawyer, closed her eyes in defeat. "You sold my grandmother's antique jewelry box?" My voice was deadly quiet. "We needed money for legal fees," Tom admitted. "After you froze our accounts." The judge's gavel cracked again. "Add the full value of the jewelry box and its contents to the damages." Court adjourned. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Kevin handled their questions while I watched Tom and Emily leave through a side door, heads down, their perfect facade finally shattered. Elise appeared at my side. Their real estate license applications were just denied. Apparently, fraud convictions don't look good on those. "What about his business partners?" "All gone. No one wants to work with someone who stole from his comatose wife." My phone buzzed. A news alert. Someone had already posted about the verdict. The comments were rolling in. "Justice served." "Karma is real." "They deserved worse." "Want to get lunch?" Elise asked. "Celebrate your victory?" I looked at the courthouse steps where Tom and Emily had just emerged, facing a barrage of cameras and questions. Emily's tears had smeared her expensive makeup. Tom's designer suit couldn't hide his defeated posture. "Actually," I smiled, "I want to go home. I have a garden room to restore." As we walked away, I heard Emily's voice one last time. "Zoe, please." I didn't turn around. My grandmother always said that true victory isn't about watching your enemies fall. It's about walking away when they do. Let them face the cameras. Let them explain their actions to the world. I had a life to rebuild, and it wouldn't include them anymore. The garden room smelled of fresh paint and new beginnings. Sunlight streamed through the restored windows, catching the crystal wind chimes my grandmother had loved so much. "The last box," Elise announced, carrying in a carefully wrapped package. "Found it in the attic, hidden behind some old trunks." I unwrapped it slowly, revealing my grandmother's jewelry box, the one Emily claimed she'd sold. "They lied about selling it?" Elise gasped. "Of course they did." I opened the box, revealing the familiar velvet interior. They probably hoped to retrieve it later after everything died down. My phone buzzed, a message from Kevin. "Tom and Emily just boarded a flight to Miami. Apparently her parents agreed to take them in." "Running away with their tails between their legs," Elise smirked. "Classic." The doorbell rang. When I opened it, I found a young woman clutching a small package. "Mrs. Moore, I'm Amanda. I worked at the jewelry store where Emily sold some pieces." She held out the package. "When I saw the news about the court case, I recognized the jewelry she'd brought in. I bought this piece myself, but it belongs to you." Inside the package was my grandmother's sapphire bracelet, the one she'd worn on her wedding day. "How much do I owe you?" I reached for my wallet. Amanda shook her head. "Nothing. What they did was wrong. I just wanted to make it right." After she left, I sat in my grandmother's restored garden room, holding the bracelet. Elise brought us coffee in the antique cups we'd managed to track down at various estate sales. "You know what's funny?" she said, settling into the window seat. "Emily's been trying to contact all our old friends, begging them to understand. Not a single person has responded. Karma has a way of working things out." "Speaking of karma," Elise pulled out her phone. "Tom's ex-business partners are starting a new venture. They want you on board as a consultant." I laughed. "Taking over his business contacts? That's poetic justice." "There's more." She hesitated. "The hospital called. They want to feature your recovery story in their newsletter. Something about triumph over adversity." "No," I set down my coffee cup. "I don't want to be known as the woman who got revenge. I want to be known for what I do next." The doorbell rang again. This time it was my elderly neighbor, Margaret. "I made you cookies," she said, holding out a plate. "And I wanted to thank you." "Thank me? For what?" "For showing my granddaughter that she doesn't have to stay with her cheating husband. She left him yesterday." I invited her in, and soon the garden room was filled with the scent of cookies and the sound of comfortable conversation. As Margaret shared neighborhood gossip, I realized something. This was exactly what my grandmother had wanted for this room. Not just a place of beauty, but a space where truth and strength could flourish. My phone buzzed one last time, an email from Emily. "I know you'll never forgive us, but I need you to understand." I deleted it without reading further. "You're not even curious?" Elise asked. "No." I picked up my grandmother's bracelet. "Their chapter in my life is over. I'm more interested in writing my own story now." Margaret nodded approvingly. "Your grandmother would be proud. She always said you were stronger than you knew." Looking around the restored room, at the friends who'd stood by me, at the pieces of my life I'd reclaimed, I finally understood what my grandmother had tried to teach me. Strength isn't just about surviving betrayal. It's about choosing how you rebuild afterward. "You know what this room needs?" I stood up. "Music." My grandmother always had music playing in here. I wound up her old music box, the one we'd found hidden in the attic along with the jewelry box. As the familiar melody filled the room, I thought about Tom and Emily, probably landing in Miami right now, running from the mess they'd made. But I wasn't running. I was right where I belonged, in the house my grandmother had protected for me, surrounded by genuine friendship and honest love. "To new beginnings." Elise raised her coffee cup. "No," I corrected her, smiling. "To continuing what my grandmother started, building a life that's truly mine." The afternoon sun caught the crystal wind chimes, sending rainbow patterns dancing across the walls. Somewhere, I knew my grandmother was smiling. She'd given me more than just a house. She'd given me the strength to defend it and the wisdom to fill it with the right people. That's the thing about karma. It doesn't just punish the guilty. It also rewards those who stay true to themselves.
The last thing my father ever gave me was a red envelope. Not money, not an apology, just a sealed crimson envelope with strict instructions not to open it until after the official will reading. I carried it in my purse for 3 weeks after his funeral, feeling its weight like a loaded gun against my hip. My name is Lauren, and I hadn't set foot in my childhood home for 7 years until today. The mansion's marble foyer still gleamed like polished ice, and family portraits lined the walls, though I noticed mine had been removed years ago. Typical Samantha. Well, well, look who finally showed up. My stepmother's voice dripped with fake sweetness as she descended the grand staircase. She hadn't aged a day, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her designer dress probably worth more than my car. We weren't sure you'd bother, given how you abandoned your poor father. I kept my face neutral. Hello, Samantha. Behind her, my step-siblings appeared like matching bookends. Jasmine, examining her manicure as if it held the secrets of the universe, and Cooper, smirking like he'd just won the lottery. Maybe he thought he had. The prodigal daughter returns, Cooper sneered. Hoping Daddy left you a consolation prize? Mr. Murphy is waiting in the study, I replied, ignoring the bait. Shall we? Gene Murphy, my father's lawyer for 30 years, stood as we entered. His kind eyes met mine with something that looked suspiciously like sympathy. That's when I knew for certain. The official will would be exactly what Samantha wanted. Please, everyone be seated, Gene began, adjusting his reading glasses. We're here to execute the last will and testament of Philip James Dawson. I tuned out the legal jargon, watching Samantha's face instead. The slight upturn of her lips, the predatory gleam in her eyes. She'd won, and she knew it. The estate, including all properties, investments, and controlling interest in Dawson Holdings, is to be divided as follows, Jean continued. To my wife, Samantha Harper Dawson, 60% of all assets. To my stepchildren, Jasmine and Cooper Harper, 19% each. Jasmine actually clapped her hands together in delight. And to my daughter, Lauren, Jean paused, looking uncomfortable. 2% of liquid assets, approximately $50,000. Just like you are, nothing, Jasmine whispered, loudly enough for everyone to hear. I reached into my purse and withdrew the red envelope. Mr. Murphy, I believe my father left additional instructions to be read after the primary will. The room went silent. Samantha's perfect smile cracked just slightly. What is that? She demanded. A codicil, Jean replied, reaching for the envelope. Properly notarized and witnessed 3 days before Philip's death. This is ridiculous. Samantha stood up, her voice rising. We weren't informed of any additional documents. This is clearly a desperate attempt to... To what, Samantha? I met her eyes. To tell the truth? The envelope is legitimate, Jean confirmed, examining the seals. And, as executor of the estate, I am legally bound to read its contents. This is bullshit, Cooper spat. Dad was barely conscious his last week. Anything he signed then was recorded on video, Jean interrupted, with witnesses present, including myself and a medical professional who confirmed his mental competency. I watched the colour drain from Samantha's face as Jean broke the seal. 7 years of waiting, of wondering if I'd imagined the look in my father's eyes when he'd pressed this envelope into my hands. His last words to me, "Wait for the right moment, Lauren. Everything has its time." This is outrageous. Samantha was practically vibrating with rage. I demand... You're in no position to demand anything, Jean said firmly, removing several pages from the envelope. Not until we determine the full scope of Philip's final wishes. The room fell silent again as Jean began to read. I, Philip James Dawson, being of sound mind, do hereby declare this to be a codicil to my last will and testament. To my daughter Lauren, I leave the truth, and with it, the power to restore what was stolen. Samantha sank back into her chair, and I saw something I'd waited 7 years to see. Fear in her eyes. The right moment had finally arrived. Jean's voice filled the study as he read my father's final words. Every sentence felt like another crack in Samantha's perfect facade. My dearest Lauren, if you're hearing this, then the official reading has concluded exactly as expected, with a lie. A lie I helped maintain for the past 7 years to protect you and to prepare for this moment. Jasmine tried to interrupt, but Jean silenced her with a raised hand. I was a coward, Lauren. I allowed Samantha to systematically destroy our relationship through manipulation, gaslighting, and eventually threats. What began as subtle suggestions about your unstable behavior evolved into complete isolation. But I never stopped watching, and I never stopped planning. I glanced at Samantha. Her perfectly manicured nails were digging into the leather armchair. 3 years ago, Jean continued reading, I created a separate trust under a holding company named Second Chances LLC. Into this trust, I transferred 70% of my true wealth, including majority ownership of our overseas operations and real estate holdings. The official will your stepmother helped draft covered only our domestic assets, approximately 30% of the total estate. That's impossible. Samantha shot to her feet. I saw all the accounts, every statement. Did you? I asked quietly. Or did you see what he wanted you to see? Jean pulled out another document. I have here the trust documents naming Lauren as sole trustee and beneficiary of Second Chances LLC, effective immediately upon Philip's death. Cooper started laughing nervously. This is a joke, right? Dad wouldn't... Additionally, Jean pressed on, I've arranged for a forensic accounting team to review all financial transactions from the past decade. Lauren has full authority to initiate any investigations she deems necessary. The blood drained from Cooper's face. Interesting. Mr. Murphy. Samantha's voice turned sickly sweet. Surely you understand this mysterious trust invalidates the official will. We'll have to contest... Actually, a new voice joined the conversation. I turned to see Thomas Reed, my father's international counsel, standing in the doorway. The trust was established in a separate jurisdiction, completely legal and ironclad. I should know. I helped create it. The final portion of the letter is personal, Jean said, handing me the remaining pages. Lauren, would you like to read it privately? No, I replied, meeting Samantha's eyes. I'll read it here. My hands didn't shake as I read my father's last words. Lauren, I know this doesn't make up for the years we lost. I know you suffered because of my weakness, but I hope this gives you the power to uncover the truth about what really happened the night you left. Samantha's composure cracked. Don't you dare! The night, I continued, my voice growing stronger, when Samantha threatened to have you committed if you didn't leave voluntarily. I found the recording, Lauren, the one you made on your phone that night, the one that mysteriously disappeared along with other evidence of her manipulation. You bitch! Jasmine hissed at me. You're making this up. The recording has been recovered, Thomas interjected, along with extensive documentation of financial irregularities that occurred after Lauren's departure. I folded the letter carefully. Dad's final gift wasn't money or property. It was the truth, and the power to do something about it. This is absurd, Samantha stood, gathering her designer purse. Come on, kids. Our lawyers will handle this nonsense. Oh, please call them. I smiled for the first time. I'm sure they'd love to explain why they failed to discover a massive international trust. Or maybe they can explain the offshore accounts you've been funneling money into? Cooper went pale. Mum? Don't say another word, Samantha snapped at him. Lauren, if you think you can waltz back in here and destroy this family... You destroyed this family long ago, I cut her off. I'm just here to restore it, starting with a complete audit of every account, every transaction, every decision made since you married my father. You can't... I can. I will. And I already have. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. The forensic accountants started their work this morning. They're particularly interested in some recent cryptocurrency transactions. Isn't that right, Cooper? Cooper looked like he might faint. Mr. Murphy? Mr. Reed? I nodded to both lawyers. I believe we're finished here. Please ensure all accounts are frozen pending investigation. As I walked toward the door, Samantha grabbed my arm. You have no idea what you're doing. I looked down at her hand, then back to her face. Actually, I do. I'm doing exactly what you taught me, taking everything from someone who deserves to lose it all. The door closed behind me with a satisfying click, but not before I heard Samantha's scream of rage. 7 years of waiting, planning, and preparing had led to this moment. And it was only the beginning. "Look at this," Rose said, spreading documents across my kitchen table. My best friend had spent the last 3 days helping me dig through years of financial records. The pattern is clear. Every time your father tried to reconcile with you, there was a large transfer of funds to this offshore account. I picked up one of the bank statements. "Blackmail money?" "More like insurance," Rose replied, pulling up something on her laptop. "She'd drain a little more each time Philip showed signs of reaching out to you, like this email from 4 years ago." The message appeared innocent enough. "Darling, I'm worried about Lauren. Perhaps we should try to contact her." My father's words made my chest ache. Samantha's reply was perfectly crafted manipulation. "Sweetheart, remember what the doctor said about enabling her behavior? Besides, I've heard disturbing rumors about her mental state. It's best to keep our distance." "God, I can practically hear her voice," I muttered. "Show me the corresponding transaction." Rose pulled up another document. 2 days after this exchange, $500,000 disappeared into an account in the Cayman Islands. A knock at my door made us both jump. It was Jean, carrying a heavy cardboard box. "Your father wanted you to have this," he said, setting it down. "He kept it in his private safe at the office. Not even Samantha knew about it." Inside the box, I found a laptop, files, and an envelope containing a USB drive. My hands trembled as I plugged it into Rose's computer. My father's face filled the screen. He looked tired, aged beyond his years, but his eyes were clear. "Lauren, if you're watching this, I finally found the courage to do what I should have done years ago. I've been gathering evidence, bank records, emails, recorded conversations, everything that proves what Samantha did to us." Rose squeezed my hand as the video continued. "That night you left, she didn't just threaten to have you committed. She threatened your life. Said she knew people who could make accidents happen. I was a coward. I chose to let you go rather than fight her. But I never stopped watching, never stopped collecting evidence." "Jesus," Rose whispered. "Say." "The laptop contains everything," my father continued, "including proof that Cooper has been embezzling company funds for crypto schemes. Samantha knows about it. She's been using it to control him, just like she controls everyone. But he made mistakes. Big ones. The kind that interest federal investigators." Jean cleared his throat. "Lauren, there's something else you should know. Dominic Burke, your father's former business partner, has been in contact. He says he has emails from Samantha that you need to see." "Dominic?" I hadn't heard that name in years. I thought he and Dad had a falling out. "Orchestrated by Samantha," Jean replied. "She saw him as a threat because he was asking too many questions about the company's finances." I turned back to the video as my father's voice grew stronger. "Lauren, I know you're angry with me. You have every right to be. But please understand, everything I've done since that night has been to prepare for this moment, to give you the weapons you need to fight back." The screen went dark, but his words echoed in my head. "Look at this," Rose suddenly said, pointing at her screen. "Cooper's crypto transactions. He wasn't just embezzling, he was laundering money, lots of it." I leaned in closer. "Can you trace where it went?" "Better," she grinned. "I can prove he knew exactly what he was doing. These messages to his crypto broker, he was bragging about it." "Make copies of everything," I told her. "Jean, can you set up a meeting with Dominic?" He nodded. "He's already asked to meet. Tomorrow at noon. His office." I started gathering the documents, my mind racing. "Rose, keep digging into Cooper's transactions. If he was laundering money, then Samantha had to know about it," she finished. "Want me to send an anonymous tip to the SEC?" "Not yet," I replied. "First, I want to talk to Cooper. Give him a chance to do the right thing." "You think he will?" Jean asked skeptically. I thought about the fear in Cooper's eyes during the will reading. "I think he's the weak link. Samantha's been controlling him through guilt and fear, just like she did with Dad. But Cooper's young, scared, and facing serious federal charges. If we approach him right, he'll flip on his mother." Rose nodded approvingly. I picked up my father's letter again, running my fingers over his signature. Samantha thought she buried all her secrets, but she forgot one thing. My father was watching. All those years, every scheme, every manipulation, every threat. He was documenting everything. And now? Rose asked. I smiled grimly. Now it's time to use it. Cooper first, then Dominic's evidence, and finally, I looked at the stack of offshore account records. Finally, we follow the money. All of it. The pieces were falling into place. Tomorrow I'd give Cooper a choice. Help me expose the truth, or go down with his mother's sinking ship. Either way, Samantha's carefully constructed world was about to crumble. Cooper was already waiting when I walked into the coffee shop, fidgeting with his Rolex, a 21st birthday gift from my father. His designer clothes couldn't hide the dark circles under his eyes or the way he kept glancing at the door. No one followed me, I said, sliding into the booth across from him. And yes, I came alone. How did you find out about the crypto? He blurted out, voice barely above a whisper. I placed a folder on the table. Dad knew. He kept records of everything. The question is, Cooper, how much did Samantha know? His face went through a series of emotions, fear, anger, desperation. You don't understand. She made me do it, said it was the only way to protect the family's interests. Protect? I laughed softly. You laundered over $12 million through crypto exchanges. That's not protection. That's fraud. She said Dad was hiding money from her, Cooper's voice cracked, that we had to secure our future before he gave everything to you. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Samantha's voice, cold and calculating, instructing Cooper on which accounts to target. His face crumpled. The FBI would be very interested in this, I said quietly. Unless what? Hope crept into his voice. Unless you help me take her down. Legally, properly, with evidence and testimony. Before he could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Rose. Turn on the news now. I pulled up a live stream. Jasmine was standing outside the mansion, tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face as she spoke to reporters. My poor sister Lauren has always been troubled, she sobbed. After our father's death, her mental state deteriorated. These wild accusations, these attempts to destroy our family. She needs help, not enablers. Cooper watched the screen, looking sick. Mom put her up to this. She's trying to discredit you before what, Cooper? He swallowed hard. Before the board meeting tomorrow. Mom's planning to challenge the trust, claim you're mentally unfit to manage the company. I smiled, which seemed to unnerve him more than anger would have. Is that so? My phone buzzed again. This time it was Jean. All done. Accounts frozen, trading privileges suspended pending investigation. What's happening? Cooper asked, noticing my expression. Right about now, Samantha should be discovering that all her access to company funds has been suspended. Same for you and Jasmine. Standard procedure when there's suspicion of financial misconduct. You can't... I can. I did. And in about 30 seconds... Cooper's phone started ringing. Samantha's face flashed on the screen. He stared at it, paralysed. Your choice, Cooper. Answer it and go down with her, or help me end this. The phone kept ringing. Sweat beaded on his forehead. She's my mother, he whispered. And she used you to commit federal crimes, I replied. The evidence is clear. The only question is whether you'll be a witness or a defendant. His phone stopped ringing, then immediately started again. Time's running out, I said softly. The FBI already has an anonymous tip about the money laundering. They'll be investigating soon. Your mother will sacrifice you to save herself. You know that, right? Cooper's hands were shaking. What do you need me to do? I slid a document across the table. Sign this affidavit. Tell the truth about the crypto transactions, the offshore accounts, everything. In return, I'll make sure the prosecutors know you cooperated fully. And Mom? Will face the consequences of her actions, just like she always promised would happen to me. The phone rang a third time. Cooper stared at it for a long moment, then declined the call. With trembling fingers, he picked up my pen. She'll never forgive me, he murmured, signing his name. Forgiveness isn't the point, I replied, taking the affidavit. Justice is. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Dominic. Got what you need. Meeting still on for tomorrow? I texted back a quick confirmation, then looked at Cooper. Go home, pack a bag. When this hits the news, you'll want to be far from Samantha. He stood up, looking lost. Lauren, I'm sorry for everything. We were awful to you and Dad. Save it, I cut him off. Actions matter more than words. You've made a start today, that's something. As he walked away, my phone lit up with a news alert. Dawson Holdings under investigation. Allegations of massive financial fraud surface. I smiled, thinking of Samantha watching her empire begin to crumble. Tomorrow's meeting with Dominic would give me the final pieces I needed. The truth was coming out. One signature, one document, one revelation at a time. And Samantha's perfectly crafted world was falling apart right on schedule. Dominic's office hadn't changed in 7 years. Same leather chairs, same view of the city skyline, same determined set to his jaw. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. Your father came to me 3 months before he died, he said, pulling out a thick file. He knew Samantha was working with our competitors, but he couldn't prove it. Until now. He spread emails across his desk. Dozens of them, all from Samantha to executives at rival companies. She was selling company secrets, I asked, scanning the messages. Worse, Dominic replied. She was actively working to tank your father's legacy. These emails show her coordinating with Richardson Global to undermine major deals, leak confidential information, even manipulate stock prices. I picked up one particularly damning email. Samantha had outlined exactly how to force the company into near bankruptcy, all while collecting millions in kickbacks. Why didn't Dad expose this? Because of this, Dominic pulled up a video on his computer. The footage showed Samantha in this very office, speaking to someone off camera. If Philip ever discovers what we've done. Her voice was cold, calculated. Make sure Lauren has an accident. Nothing too obvious. A car crash, perhaps. Or a break-in gone wrong. My hands clenched into fists. When was this? 2 years ago. Your father found it a month before he died. That's when he accelerated his plans, created the trust, started moving assets. My phone buzzed. A news alert. I almost laughed when I read it. Looks like Cooper came through. I showed Dominic the headline. Breaking. Dawson Holdings executive provides evidence of widespread fraud. Your stepbrother grew a spine. More like self-preservation. The FBI is interviewing him now. I stood up, gathering the emails. These are copies? Dominic nodded. Originals are safe. I've also got recorded conversations, bank transfers, everything showing how she conspired with Richardson Global. Perfect timing, I smiled grimly. The board meets in 2 hours. I think they'll find this very interesting. Lauren, Dominic's voice stopped me at the door. There's something else. About the night you left. I remember everything about that night, I cut him off. But you don't know what happened after. Samantha came here to my office. She was celebrating. Said she'd finally gotten rid of the last obstacle to controlling your father completely. I recorded that conversation too. He handed me another USB drive. Your father never saw this one. I was saving it, waiting for the right moment. Back in my car, I plugged the drive into my laptop. Samantha's voice filled the space, slightly slurred from champagne but triumphant. It was almost too easy. The girl actually recorded me threatening her. Can you believe it? But phones are so fragile, aren't they? One little accident with a glass of water, and poof, all evidence gone. Now there's nothing standing between me and everything Philip owns. A male voice, presumably Dominic, asked, And if Lauren tries to come back? Samantha's laugh was chilling. Oh, I've taken care of that. I've got doctors ready to testify about her unstable mental state. One wrong move from her, and she'll spend the rest of her life in a padded room. The recording continued, detailing every manipulation, every calculated move. By the end, my hands had stopped shaking. The rage had crystallized into something cold and precise. My phone rang. Rose. You need to see this, she said without preamble. Jasmine just posted your private medical records online, from when you were in therapy after your mum died. Let me guess. Heavily edited to make me look unstable. Exactly. But here's the thing. The records have metadata showing they were accessed and modified recently. from Samantha's private computer. I smiled. Can you prove that? Already documented. Want me to send it to the medical board? This is a major HIPAA violation. Do it. And Rose, make sure the board members see it before the meeting. I started my car, heading toward Dawson Holdings headquarters. In my rearview mirror, I caught sight of a familiar black SUV. Right on schedule, I murmured, watching Samantha's car following me. She thought she was being clever, tailing me to the board meeting. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Jean. Everything's ready. Board members have copies of Cooper's testimony. Security is standing by. I typed back, perfect. And the reporters? Outside waiting, just as you requested. I pulled into the parking garage, Samantha's SUV still behind me. She thought she was heading to her triumph, exposing me as mentally unfit, taking final control of the company. Instead, she was driving straight into a trap 7 years in the making. Every piece was in place, every bit of evidence ready, every witness prepared. Time to end this. The boardroom fell silent as I walked in, Samantha close behind me. 12 pairs of eyes watched us take our seats at opposite ends of the massive oak table. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Now that we're all here, Samantha began, her voice dripping with false concern, we need to discuss the company's leadership crisis, given recent events and Lauren's documented mental health issues. Actually, I interrupted, let's discuss your documented criminal behavior first. I nodded to Jean, who started distributing folders to each board member. What you're looking at, I continued, is evidence of systematic fraud, corporate espionage and criminal conspiracy spanning the last 7 years. Samantha's face tightened. These are obviously fabricated. Page 3, I cut her off. Emails between you and Richardson Global, detailing how to sabotage our Asian expansion project. Page 7, offshore account statements showing kickbacks from our competitors. And page 12, Cooper's sworn testimony about the money laundering operation you orchestrated. The board members flipped through the documents, murmuring amongst themselves. Samantha's perfectly manicured nails drummed against the table. This is absurd, she laughed, but it sounded hollow. Lauren is clearly having another breakdown. I have medical records, the illegally accessed and altered medical records that Jasmine posted online. I pressed a button on my phone. Records that were modified from your personal computer, as the metadata proves. The boardroom door opened. A woman in a sharp suit entered, flanked by 2 men in dark jackets. Mrs. Dawson. The woman held up a badge. I'm Agent Sarah Martinez, FBI. We need to ask you some questions about certain financial transactions. Samantha's composure cracked. This is ridiculous. I demand... Perhaps, I interrupted again, you'd like to explain the recording of you threatening my life. The one where you celebrated destroying evidence of your threats? The colour drained from her face. Or maybe, I continued, you'd prefer to discuss the video of you instructing Cooper how to launder money through crypto exchanges. He's been very cooperative with federal investigators, by the way. Cooper would never... she started, then stopped as Agent Martinez placed a laptop in front of her, playing the damning footage. Samantha Harper Dawson, Martinez began. You're under investigation for fraud, money laundering, conspiracy. You can't do this to me, Samantha shrieked, jumping to her feet. I built this company. I controlled everything. Exactly, I said quietly. You just confessed in front of 12 board members and federal agents. Well done. She lunged across the table at me, but security was faster. As they restrained her, she screamed, You're nothing. You hear me? Nothing. Actually, Jean stood up. As controlling trustee of Second Chances LLC, and with these criminal allegations, Lauren now has full voting control of the company. The boardroom doors opened again, revealing a crowd of reporters with cameras rolling, capturing Samantha's complete meltdown. You planned this, she hissed as the agents led her toward the door. You orchestrated everything. I smiled. I learned from the best. You taught me how to manipulate, remember? How to plan, how to wait for the perfect moment. Your father would be ashamed. My father, I cut her off one final time, helped me plan this. Every detail, every contingency. That red envelope? It wasn't just about the trust. It was the key to exposing everything you'd done. The reporters were shouting questions, cameras flashing as Samantha was led away. Her perfect mask had crumbled completely, revealing the rage and desperation beneath. "The board will be taking a short recess," Jean announced, "after which we'll discuss the company's new direction under Ms. Lauren's leadership." As the room cleared out, Rose slipped in through a side door. "Jasmine's been served with papers for the HIPAA violation," she reported, "and Cooper's testimony has been formally entered into evidence. It's over." I sat down heavily in my father's old chair, running my fingers along the armrest where he used to grip it during tense meetings. "Lauren?" Rose touched my shoulder. "You okay?" "I found something else in Dad's papers this morning," I said quietly, pulling out a photograph. "From before Samantha, when it was just him and me." The picture showed a much younger version of myself, sitting on my father's shoulders, both of us laughing. On the back he'd written, "Remember who you really are." "He never stopped loving you," Rose said softly. "I know." I tucked the photo away and stood up. "Come on, we have a company to rebuild." Outside the boardroom, reporters were still filming as Samantha was escorted into a waiting federal vehicle. Our eyes met through the window. She mouthed something that looked like, "I'll destroy you." I just smiled and turned away. She'd already tried her best to destroy me once. This time, I'd destroyed her instead. The mansion looked different in the rain, smaller somehow. I stood in the foyer, watching Samantha pack her designer bags under the supervision of 2 federal agents. Her house arrest conditions allowed her 1 hour to collect personal belongings before the asset freeze took full effect. "This isn't over," she said, stuffing jewellery into a Gucci bag. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." "Actually, I do." I held up my phone, displaying emails she'd sent to Richardson Global. "Threatening to have competitors' children kidnapped? That's a new low, even for you." She froze. "Where did you get those?" "Dad had a backup email server. Everything you sent, everything you deleted, he kept it all. The FBI is particularly interested in these threats." "You stupid girl," she hissed. "You think you've won? I still have friends, powerful friends." "Like Marcus Richardson?" I smiled as her face paled. "He flipped on you this morning. Turns out he kept recordings of all your conversations. Smart man." The agents began zipping up her bags. Her time was almost up. "Wait," she said suddenly. "There's something in the study I need to get." "Mrs. Dawson, your time is—" one agent began. "It's fine," I interrupted. "I'll accompany her." The study still smelled like my father's cologne. Samantha went straight to his desk, reaching for a hidden compartment I knew well. "Looking for this?" I pulled out a small recording device. "Dad's old dictaphone? The one with your confession about threatening my life?" She straightened up slowly. "How long have you known about that drawer?" "Since I was 12. Dad showed me all his hiding spots." I ran my hand along the desk's edge. "Just like he showed me where he kept evidence of your first husband's mysterious death." That hit home. Her perfectly maintained facade cracked completely. "You know nothing about that," she whispered. "Insurance policy payouts, suspicious bank transfers, emails to a now-deceased private investigator." I met her eyes. "Dad knew everything, Samantha. He just waited for the right moment and the right person to expose it all." She moved faster than I expected, lunging for my throat. But I was ready. Sidestepping her attack, I watched as she stumbled, crashing into the desk. "Federal agents!" The officers burst in, weapons drawn. "She attacked me!" Samantha shrieked, trying one last desperate play. "She's unstable, just like I've been saying." "You mean like this?" I pointed to the security camera in the corner, its red light blinking. "The one that just recorded everything?" The fight drained out of her as the agents cuffed her. "You destroyed my family," I said quietly. "Made my father doubt himself, doubt me. Made him so afraid for my safety that he had to push me away to protect me. He was weak," she spat. "Easy to manipulate, just like Cooper." "No." I pulled out my father's final letter. "He was playing you. Every step of the way. Building evidence, protecting assets, preparing for this moment." "Time to go, Mrs. Dawson," the agent said firmly. As they led her toward the door, I called out, "One last thing." She turned, hatred burning in her eyes. "Dad left you a message." I pressed play on my phone. My father's voice filled the room. "Samantha, if you're hearing this, then Lauren has finally done what I couldn't. Exposed you for what you really are. Everything you took from her, everything you stole from me. It's all going back where it belongs. You thought you were so clever, but you forgot one thing. A father's love is stronger than any manipulation." Tears streaked her perfect makeup as she was led away. Through the window, I watched her climb into the waiting police car, her designer bags tossed in the trunk like garbage. Rose appeared beside me. "You okay?" "Look what I found," I said, pulling out an old photo album. "Pictures from before. Dad kept them hidden in that drawer, along with evidence of every crime she ever committed." "Smart man," Rose smiled. "He knew her type," I nodded. "Said she wasn't the first social climber to try destroying a family for money. Just the last one he'd let succeed." My phone buzzed. A news alert. Dawson Holdings, CEO arrested, corporate conspiracy and murder investigation reopened. "Murder investigation?" Rose asked. "Her first husband's case is being reopened," I explained. "Dad had evidence she was involved. He kept everything, Rose. Every dark secret, every criminal act. He was building a case for years." "For you," she said softly. "For justice," I corrected, looking around the study one last time. "Come on, we have work to do." Outside, the rain had stopped. The police car carrying Samantha disappeared around the corner, taking with it 7 years of pain and betrayal. My father's voice echoed in my head. Everything has its time. Finally, it was time for truth. Time for justice. Time for healing. The autumn wind rustled through the cemetery as I placed fresh flowers on my father's grave. The marble headstone was still new enough to shine. "You should see the company now, Dad," I said softly. "Everything you built, everything she almost destroyed, we've made it stronger than ever." "Lauren?" A familiar voice made me turn. Cooper stood awkwardly at the edge of the path, holding his own bouquet. "Didn't expect to see you here," I said. He stepped forward carefully, like a wounded animal expecting a trap. "I just finished my community service, part of the plea deal. I heard you're working with the FBI, helping them track down other crypto fraud schemes. It's a way to make things right." He placed his flowers next to mine. "I got a letter from Mum yesterday, from prison. Let me guess, she wants you to help appeal her conviction." He shook his head. "She wants me to find her hidden accounts, the ones even you haven't discovered yet. And I told her to rot in hell." His voice cracked. "I visited her first husband's daughter last week, told her everything I knew about what Mum did to her father. She deserved the truth." I studied him carefully. The entitled boy who'd sneered at me during the will reading was gone. This Cooper looked older, wearier, but somehow more real. "What about Jasmine?" I asked. "In rehab. The HIPAA violation charges scared her straight. She's actually getting help. Real help." My phone buzzed. Rose sending me updates about the new foundation we'd started. "First grant approved. Helping families affected by financial abuse and fraud." "I saw the news about your foundation," Cooper said. "Using company profits to help people like the ones Mum hurt. It's what Dad would have wanted. Lauren?" He shifted uncomfortably. "There's something else you should know. The night you left, I heard Mum threatening you. I was 16, hiding in the hallway. I could have spoken up, could have backed up your story, but I was too scared." "You were a kid, Cooper." "I was a coward," he corrected. "Just like I was a coward every time she made me help her hurt people. But I'm not that person anymore." A sleek black car pulled up to the cemetery gates. Dominic, right on time for our board meeting. "I should go," I said. "The company—" "Wait." Cooper reached into his jacket. "I found this in Mum's personal files during the FBI sweep. It's from Dad, to you." The envelope was old, yellowed at the edges. Inside was a single photograph. Me at my college graduation, taken from a distance. On the back, in my father's handwriting, "Proudest day of my life. Wish I could have told you." "He was there?" My voice wavered. "He went to everything," Cooper said quietly. "Your graduations, your first gallery showing, even watched your TED talk online. Mum didn't know. He had a whole box of photos, newspaper clippings about your achievements. He never stopped being your father. The wind picked up, scattering autumn leaves across the grave. The board is waiting, I said, tucking the photo carefully into my pocket. Lauren? Cooper called as I turned to leave. Do you think he'd be proud of what I'm doing now? I thought about my father's final message, his belief in redemption, in second chances. He believed people could change, I said finally. Prove him right. Walking to Dominic's car, I felt lighter somehow. The revenge I'd sought had brought justice. Yes, but also something unexpected. The chance for healing, for truth, for broken people to rebuild themselves. My phone buzzed again. A message from Jean. Your father would be proud of all of it. I looked back at the cemetery. Cooper was still standing by the grave, head bowed. Behind him, the morning sun broke through the clouds, casting long shadows across the marble headstones. Everything has its time, I whispered my father's words. Time for revenge, time for justice, and now, finally, time for grace. Dominic opened the car door. Ready for the board meeting? I smiled, feeling the weight of the photograph in my pocket. Proof that even in the darkest times, love never really dies. It just waits for the right moment to reveal itself. Yes, I said. I'm ready. The car pulled away, leaving behind a father's grave, a reformed son, and the last remnants of a revenge served not just cold, but with purpose, with meaning, with hope.
The crystal wine glasses clinked as Vanessa raised hers in another insufferable toast. I counted the seconds until I could escape this suffocating dining room with its mahogany panels and judgmental stares. My mother-in-law's voice dripped honey-coated venom as she spoke. To family legacy, she proclaimed, her eyes fixed on me, and to knowing one's proper place in society. I'm Selena, and 6 months ago, I made the mistake of thinking love could conquer old money's disdain for new media. My lifestyle brand had just hit 1 million followers when I married Maggie Hughes. Now, I was watching it all unravel over foie gras and thinly veiled insults. Speaking of proper place, Vanessa continued, setting down her glass with practiced precision. I noticed you're still posting those little videos, Selena. What do you call them? Stories? Reels, Mother, Maggie corrected, squeezing my hand under the table. Once, that gesture meant support. Tonight, it felt like a warning. Did you see her latest one? Kennedy, my sister-in-law, pulled out her phone. She's teaching people how to thrift shop. Thrift shop. She emphasized each word like she was describing something obscene. I help people find affordable fashion alternatives, I said, keeping my voice steady. Not everyone can afford. Darling, Vanessa interrupted. When you married my son, you joined one of Boston's most respected families. We have a certain standard to maintain. The butler appeared with dessert, but my appetite had long since vanished. Yahir, my father-in-law, hadn't spoken a word all evening, but his disapproving glances said enough. After dinner, Maggie led me to his study. The room smelled of leather and privilege, and I knew what was coming before he opened his mouth. We need to talk about your social media presence, he said, pouring himself another drink. Mother's right. It's becoming an embarrassment. An embarrassment? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. My content helps people, Maggie. Real people. Real people don't matter to our circle, he snapped, then softened his tone. Baby, you're not just Selena the influencer anymore. You're a Hughes. And that means I have to disappear? It means you need to grow up. He set down his glass hard enough to make me flinch. The charity gala is in 3 months. Mother's already worried you'll somehow mess it up. I've done nothing but try to fit in with your family, I said, feeling the familiar pressure behind my eyes. I've changed my wardrobe, my speech, even my friends. But not your career. Meki walked to the window, his back to me. It's time to choose, Selena, your little clown show or this family. The words hit like a physical blow. Clown show? Is that what you really think of my work? He turned, his expression hard. Delete your accounts, all of them, tonight. And if I don't? Then perhaps we made a mistake, thinking you could be one of us. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I pulled out my phone, my hands surprisingly steady. Opened Instagram. 1,200,000 followers watched my daily life, trusted my advice, formed a community I'd built from nothing. Fine, I said quietly. Watch. Click. Settings. Click. Delete account. Click. Confirm. Maggie's smile was triumphant. I knew you'd make the right choice. I stood up, smoothing my designer dress, a gift from Vanessa that never quite felt like me. I need some air. In the hallway, I pulled out my phone again and opened my messages. Found the conversation with Samuel, my best friend, and the only person who truly understood what I'd been through. I'm ready, I typed. His response came instantly. About damn time. Operation Phoenix? I glanced back at the study door, where my husband was probably already calling his mother with the good news. They thought they'd won. They thought they'd finally silenced me. Yes, I replied to Samuel, but bigger, much bigger. Another message popped up. You sure? Once we start? I thought about Vanessa's smug smile, Kennedy's mockery, Yahir's silent judgment, and Meki's betrayal. My fingers flew across the screen. They wanted me to choose between my voice and their family. They never considered I might choose myself. Samuel's response made me smile for the first time that evening. Then let's give them a show they'll never forget. I walked to my car, the cool night air clearing my head. They thought they'd killed my brand tonight. Instead, they'd just helped birth something far more powerful. Something that would make them regret ever trying to dim my light. Let them celebrate their victory. They had no idea what was coming. Perfect, Samuel said, adjusting the lighting in his downtown studio. Now tilt your head slightly. We want mystery, not anonymity. 2 weeks after deleting my main account, I stood before the camera wearing a sleek black mask that covered the upper half of my face. The rest of my outfit was simple, a white button-down and black slacks. Professional, powerful, nothing like the colorful, approachable style I'd worn before. You sure about the mask concept? I asked, watching Samuel fiddle with camera settings. Trust me, people are fascinated by the unknown. Plus, it'll drive your in-laws crazy trying to figure out who's behind Parallax when it blows up. We'd spent days crafting the perfect launch strategy. Parallax Initiative wouldn't be just another lifestyle brand. It would be a movement. Female entrepreneurship, mental health advocacy, and genuine philanthropy, not the performative kind I'd witnessed at Hughes' family events. Ready? Samuel asked. Remember, keep your voice slightly lower than usual. I nodded, took a deep breath, and faced the camera. Welcome to Parallax, I began, where perspective changes everything. Today, we're talking about authentic success in a world obsessed with appearances. 3 hours later, we had enough content for our first week of posts. As Samuel edited, my phone buzzed with a text from Meki. Mother's hosting brunch tomorrow. Wear the Chanel suit she bought you. I texted back a simple, of course, while Samuel snorted. How's life as the perfect Hughes wife? He asked. Exhausting. I showed him a photo from last week's charity committee meeting. Look at this. Vanessa actually patted my head like a dog and said, I'm finally learning. Use it, Samuel said, not looking up from his computer. Channel that rage into something productive. He was right. Every condescending comment, every forced smile, every memory of Meki's betrayal, it all fueled Parallax's mission. The next morning, I sat through brunch in Vanessa's sun-drenched conservatory, playing my role perfectly while my phone silently exploded with notifications. Our first video had gone live. Selena, darling, Vanessa cooed, you seem so much more settled now that you've given up that internet nonsense. Thank you, I replied, buttering a croissant. I'm learning so much about real philanthropy from you. Kennedy nearly choked on her mimosa. Please, Like you could ever understand what we do. Our annual gala raises millions. Speaking of millions, Royal, their event coordinator, burst into the room waving his tablet. You won't believe who just committed to sponsoring this year's gala. Vanessa straightened, pearls gleaming. The Andersons finally came through? Better? There's this new organization, Parallax Initiative. They're offering $500,000, plus they're bringing in some major tech investors. I sipped my tea to hide my smile while Vanessa frowned. Parallax? Never heard of them. Who runs it? Royal scrolled through his tablet. It's anonymous, but they're making waves. Their mental health program just funded 3 new clinics in underserved areas. Anonymous charity is so tacky, Kennedy scoffed. Probably new money trying to buy their way in. Later that night, I sat in my home office, reading messages from followers. One caught my eye. Dear Parallax, I was ready to give up on my small business. Your video about surviving toxic workplaces gave me courage. Today I quit my soul-crushing job to pursue my dreams full-time. Thank you for showing me my worth. Tears blurred my vision. Samuel was right. This was bigger than revenge. My office door opened and Makey walked in. I quickly switched tabs to a cooking website. Working late? He asked, loosening his tie. Just looking up recipes for your mother's dinner party. He came closer, peering at my screen. You've changed so much lately. Mother's actually proud. The words hit like acid. I used to crave their approval. Now it felt like chains. I'm trying to be worthy of the Hughes name, I said softly. You are. He kissed my forehead. As long as you remember your place. After he left, I opened my private browser and logged into Parallax's account. Our follower count had hit 100,000 in just one day. Comments poured in, each one a testament to real impact, not social posturing. My phone buzzed with a text from Samuel. Phase 1 complete. Ready for Phase 2? I thought about Meki's kiss, tainted with condescension. About Vanessa's proud smile, thinking she'd broken me. About Kennedy's constant reminders of my unworthiness. Phase 2, I typed back. Let's show them what real influence looks like. The mask I wore for Parallax might hide my face, but for the first time since my wedding, I felt truly seen. More caviar, darling. Vanessa held out the crystal serving dish, her smile as artificial as her highlights. 2 months had passed since I'd reformed, and she'd taken to parading me around like a prize poodle. Thank you, Mother, I replied, accepting a small portion. Across the table, Kennedy rolled her eyes. At least she's learned proper portions now, Kennedy stage whispered to her friend Sophie. Remember when she used to pile her plate like she was at a buffet? I focused on my caviar, remembering the latest Parallax video we'd filmed yesterday, a scathing commentary on food shaming in high society. It had already racked up 500,000 views. Ladies, Royal breezed into the dining room, his tablet perpetually in hand. We need to discuss the seating arrangements for the gala. The Parallax representatives are requesting a full table. Vanessa's fork clinked against her plate. A full table? Who do they think they are? They're our biggest donor this year, Royal reminded her. And their guest list is impressive. Tech CEOs, social impact investors, even that young YouTube sensation, Sarah something. Sarah Garrett? Kennedy perked up. She has 20 million subscribers. Mother, we should definitely give them the table. I hid my smile. Sarah was one of my first mentees under the Parallax brand. She had no idea who I really was, but she'd become the perfect voice for our community. Fine, Vanessa sighed, but keep them away from the main family table. We don't need new money mixing with old guard. Royal made a note, then hesitated. There's one more thing. They're requesting 5 minutes of speaking time during the program. Absolutely not, Vanessa's voice rose sharply. The gala program is a carefully curated tradition. We don't let sponsors give speeches. The donation is contingent on it, Royal said carefully, and it's not just the 500,000 anymore. They're offering to match all donations made that night. The room fell silent. Even Kennedy stopped texting. "Well," Vanessa finally said, smoothing her napkin, "I suppose we could make an exception. Just this once." Later that afternoon, Meki found me in the garden, supposedly reading but actually approving final cuts for next week's content. "You're different lately," he said, sitting beside me on the marble bench. I quickly closed my laptop. "Different how?" "Calmer, more appropriate." He touched my cheek. "I knew you'd adapt eventually. The Hughes way is always better." "The Hughes way," I repeated, remembering how he used to defend my independence, my creativity, my voice. Before the marriage, before his mother's influence won. "Mother wants us to host the pre-gala dinner," he continued. "Think you can handle that without embarrassing us?" "Of course, darling." I gave him my best society smile. "I've learned so much from your family." That evening I met Samuel at our secure studio space. He was editing footage of our latest philanthropy project, a women's shelter we'd funded in silence while the Hughes family plastered their name on hospital wings. "Sarah's confirmed for the gala," he said as I walked in. "She's bringing her whole team to document everything." "Perfect." I sat down, pulling up our timeline. "What about the other guests?" "All set. 3 tech billionaires who hate old money pretension, 5 social impact investors, and that fashion designer Vanessa's been trying to get into her circle for years." I nodded, then showed him my phone. "Look what Kennedy posted today." It was a photo of me at brunch, caption reading, "So proud of my sister-in-law for finally growing up and leaving her internet addiction behind." Class over clicks." Samuel snorted. "She's going to eat those words with a silver spoon." Speaking of eating, I pulled out an envelope. "The menu for the pre-gala dinner. Meki's letting me host." "They really think they've won, don't they?" "Completely." I started pacing. "Today, Vanessa actually said she's considering letting me join the charity board next year if I keep proving myself." Samuel stopped editing and turned to face me. "Having second thoughts?" "No," I said firmly. "But sometimes I look at Meki and remember how he used to be, before they poisoned him with their prejudice." "He made his choice," Samuel reminded me gently. "He chose their world over your truth." My phone buzzed. Another text from Vanessa. "Darling, don't forget to wear the blue Dior tomorrow. Kennedy says you tried on something contemporary at lunch. We must maintain standards." I showed Samuel the message. 3 more weeks until the gala. Think we can maintain this charade?" He pulled up our latest analytics. Parallax had just crossed 2 million followers. Our philanthropic impact had reached 8 figures. Sarah's documentary about our movement was trending worldwide. "Trust me," he said, "the charade is almost over. And their standards?" He gestured to our impact numbers. "We've already shattered them." I touched the mask hanging on our studio wall, my symbol of rebellion and redemption. 3 weeks, I whispered. Then they'll learn what real influence looks like. "And with this donation, we've completed funding for 3 new schools in Ghana," I said into the camera, my mask catching the studio lights. "Remember, true impact isn't about—" The studio door clicked. I froze. "Selena?" Meki's voice echoed through the space. Samuel lunged for the power switch while I yanked off my mask. The screens went dark just as Meki rounded the corner. "What are you doing here?" He looked around the small editing suite I'd told him was a documentary rental space. "Just watching some charity documentaries," I gestured to the blank screens. "Research for the gala." Meki picked up a nearby tablet, but Samuel had already locked it. "Since when are you so interested in charity work?" "Your mother's influence," I smiled sweetly. "She's taught me so much about proper philanthropy." He seemed satisfied with that answer, but his eyes lingered on the equipment. "Who's your friend?" "Samuel." My friend stepped forward, extending his hand. "I rent the space to Selena. She's very interested in traditional documentary styles." After Meki left, promising to pick me up in an hour for dinner, Samuel collapsed into his chair. That was too close, he muttered, pulling up our security protocols. We need to be more careful. My phone buzzed with a notification. Parallax's latest post about wealth inequality had gone viral. 3 million views in 2 hours. Maybe we should slow down, Samuel suggested. The gala's in 2 weeks. We can't risk exposure now. No, I said, reading the comments flooding in. Look at this impact. We can't stop. Later that evening, during another suffocating family dinner, Kennedy couldn't stop talking about Parallax. Their latest video about performative charity was brilliant, she gushed, not realizing she was describing herself. Mother, we should reach out to them about a collaboration. Vanessa sipped her wine. They're still too mysterious for my taste. Royal, have you managed to identify any of their key people? Not yet, Royal admitted, but their influence is undeniable. The gala's waiting list has tripled since they announced their involvement. Speaking of influence, Meki turned to me. I saw some interesting equipment in that studio today. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. Oh? Looked more like a content creation setup than documentary viewing. Really? I kept my voice light. I wouldn't know the difference. Wouldn't you? His tone was casual, but his eyes were sharp. You used to make content after all. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with a message from Samuel. Emergency. Call now. Excuse me, I stood, grateful for the interruption. Work call. In the hallway, Samuel's voice was tense. We have a problem. Someone's trying to hack our server. What? Who? Can't tell yet, but they're good. They're targeting the files with your unmasked footage. My hands started shaking. Move everything to the secure server now. Already done, but Selena... He hesitated. I think we're being watched. That studio visit wasn't accidental. I peered back into the dining room, where Meki was in deep conversation with his father. You think... Check your desk when you get home. And Selena, be careful. That night, after Meki fell asleep, I crept to my office. The lock on my desk drawer was intact, but something felt off. I pulled it open slowly. My heart stopped. The Parallax Gala invitation, the one marked reserved honoree seating that I'd hidden under old papers, was now sitting on top, slightly askew. My phone lit up with a text from Meki. Still awake? I looked toward our bedroom, where I'd left him sleeping. Another text came through. We need to talk about your documentary project. Hands trembling, I called Samuel. They know, I whispered when he answered. How much? Not everything, but enough to be dangerous. I started pacing. What do we do? Stick to the plan, Samuel said firmly. We're too close to back down now. The gala's in 2 weeks. They can't prove anything before then. And after? After won't matter. That's the point of all this, remember? I touched the invitation, thinking of Vanessa's smug smile, Kennedy's condescension, and Meki's slow transformation from the man I loved to someone I barely recognized. Samuel, I said quietly, move up the timeline. We need to finish the Ghana school footage tomorrow. Why? Because I don't think we have 2 weeks anymore. I heard footsteps in the hallway. And Samuel, get Sarah ready. If this falls apart, she needs to be prepared to tell our story. I hung up, just as my office door opened. Meki stood there, his face unreadable in the darkness. Working late again, darling? He asked. Just finalizing details for your mother's gala, I replied, sliding the drawer shut. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Of course you are. The door closed, and I let out a shaky breath. The game was shifting, pieces moving faster than planned. But then again, the best revenge doesn't follow a schedule. Turn, the seamstress instructed, pinning the hem of my gown. 1 week until the gala, and Vanessa had insisted on a final fitting at her preferred atelier. Perfect, Vanessa purred, circling me like a shark. Navy blue, dignified, traditional. Much better than those garish outfits you used to wear in your videos. The seamstress's pin pricked my ankle. I didn't flinch. Speaking of videos, Kennedy walked in, waving her phone. Have you seen Parallax's latest post? They're announcing their full team at the gala. Vanessa's head snapped up. What? I watched Kennedy play the video, my video, filmed yesterday in the mask that now felt like a second skin. My disguised voice promised revelations that would transform Boston's philanthropic landscape forever. About time, Vanessa sniffed. Anonymous charity is so tasteless. My phone buzzed, a text from Meki. We need to discuss your gala speech. Dinner tonight. No excuses. The seamstress finished her work, and I changed back into my acceptable designer outfit. As I left the atelier, another message came through, this time from Samuel. Sarah's documentary crew just arrived in Boston. Everything's ready. I was halfway to my car when Kennedy caught up with me. Selena, wait. She grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging in slightly. Mother wanted me to remind you about your place at the gala. My place? You'll be seated at table 12, she smiled sweetly. Away from the main family table. Can't have you accidentally speaking to the wrong people. Of course, I matched her smile. I know my place. That evening, Meki was waiting in his study, a familiar folder on his desk. Interesting reading material, he said as I entered, tapping the folder. Want to know what I found? My heart raced, but my voice remained steady. What are you talking about? He opened the folder, pulling out papers. Financial records, your old content creation equipment, all sold 6 months ago. But here's the curious part. He held up a document. Similar equipment purchased through a shell company 2 weeks later. You're investigating me? Protecting our family interests. He stood up, moving closer. You've been different lately. Too perfect. Too compliant. Isn't that what you wanted? What I want, he leaned in, is the truth. Are you Parallax? I forced a laugh. Me? The woman you called a social media clown? That's ridiculous. Is it? He pulled out his phone, playing a Parallax video. The hand gestures, the speech patterns. Now you're analyzing body language. What happened to you, Meki? You used to defend me against your family's paranoia. Something flickered in his eyes. Doubt, maybe regret. I pressed on. You wanted me to change, to fit your family's mold. I did. And now you're suspicious because I succeeded? He sat back down, running a hand through his hair. Maybe I'm wrong. You are? I moved toward the door. And if you'll excuse me, I need to prepare for the gala. Wouldn't want to embarrass the family name. The moment I left, I called Samuel. They're getting closer, I said, rushing to my car. Mackie's connecting the dots. We expected this, Samuel replied calmly. Sarah's team is already setting up the live stream for the gala. Once it starts? No, I cut him off. We need to change tactics. They're watching me too closely. What are you thinking? I started my car, heading toward our studio. Remember how Vanessa always says image is everything? Let's give her an image she'll never forget. The next morning, I attended the final gala planning meeting. Royal was reviewing the schedule when I raised my hand. Yes, Selena? Vanessa's tone was indulgent. I'd like to volunteer to be the family speaker this year. The room went silent. Kennedy choked on her sparkling water. You? Vanessa's smile tightened. Darling, the family speech is a crucial moment. We need someone who truly understands our legacy. Exactly, I smiled back. After all your guidance, who better to speak about the Hughes family's impact than the woman you've molded into the perfect society wife? I could see her calculating. The optics of refusing, the risk of letting me speak, the potential for embarrassment. Perhaps, she finally said, a short introduction would be appropriate. Perfect. I gathered my things, standing to leave. I promise, Mother, everyone will remember this speech. As I walked out, I heard Kennedy whisper, Mother, are you sure about this? Vanessa's response floated after me. Don't worry, dear. What's the worst she could do? We've tamed her completely. In my car, I pulled out my phone and typed a message to Samuel. Speech approved. Start the countdown. His response was immediate. Ready when you are, boss. Time to show them what Untamed really looks like. I smiled, touching the gala invitation in my purse. 1 week until everything changed. 1 week until they learned that some voices can't be silenced. They just learn to speak in different ways. The ballroom sparkled with old money and new tension. I adjusted my navy blue gown, Vanessa's choice of course, and watched Sarah's documentary crew set up near the stage. They were posing as regular event photographers, but their cameras would capture every moment of what was about to unfold. There you are, Mekki appeared beside me, straightening his bow tie. Mother's looking for you. Something about reviewing your speech one last time. Of course she is, I smiled, squeezing his arm. How do I look? Appropriate enough? His eyes searched my face. Almost too appropriate. Before he could say more, Royal rushed over. The Parallax representatives are here. Finally, Vanessa materialized, pearls gleaming. Let's see who's behind all this mystery. We watched as a group entered the ballroom. Samuel led them, looking sharp in his tuxedo, followed by tech CEOs and social impact investors I'd spent months cultivating relationships with. None of them knew my true identity. They'd only dealt with Parallax's masked founder via video calls. Where's their leader? Kennedy demanded, scanning the crowd. Running late, apparently, Samuel approached us, playing his role perfectly. But they asked me to deliver this. He handed Vanessa an envelope. Inside was a note. The truth reveals itself in due time. How dramatic, Vanessa scoffed, but I caught the uncertainty in her voice. The evening progressed according to plan. Dinner was served, checks were written, and social hierarchies were carefully maintained. I sat at table 12, watching Vanessa hold court at the main table. Time for the speeches, Royal announced over the microphone, starting with a special introduction from Mrs. Selena Hughes. I stood, feeling hundreds of eyes follow me to the stage. Sarah's cameras tracked my every move. Good evening, I began, my voice clear and controlled. The Hughes family has taught me so much about legacy, about proper behavior, about knowing one's place. Vanessa beamed from her seat. They showed me that image is everything, I continued. That silence is golden, that some voices matter more than others. The smile on Vanessa's face wavered slightly. But tonight isn't about silence, it's about truth. And the truth is... Ladies and gentlemen, Royal suddenly interrupted, rushing to the stage. We have a special announcement. The founder of Parallax Initiative has arrived. The ballroom doors opened. Every head turned. A figure in a sleek black suit and the now famous mask walked in. Samuel had outdone himself finding my body double. Same height, same walk, same presence. What perfect timing, I said into the microphone, watching Vanessa's face. Because I was just about to discuss true philanthropy versus performative charity. Kennedy stood up. Mother, something's wrong. You see, I continued, real impact doesn't need family names on buildings. It doesn't require social media bans or forced silence. The masked figure reached the stage. Vanessa was half rising from her seat, realization dawning in her eyes. No, she whispered. I turned to the masked figure. Would you like to show everyone who's really behind Parallax Initiative? The figure reached up, removing the mask to reveal Sarah, the YouTube star I'd mentored, who'd agreed to play this final role. But if she's not... Kennedy's voice trailed off. I smiled directly into Sarah's camera. I am. The ballroom erupted in whispers. Mekki's wineglass slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. Over the past 6 months, I continued, my voice carrying over the chaos, Parallax Initiative has built schools in Ghana, funded women's shelters across America, and created opportunities for thousands of creators who were told their voices didn't matter. Security! Vanessa called out, but the cameras were rolling. Sarah's live stream was already trending. We've generated more real impact in half a year than the Hughes family's performative charity has in a decade, I said, and we did it without silencing anyone, without shame, without pretense. You manipulative little... Kennedy started toward the stage, but Samuel stepped in her way. The numbers don't lie. I pressed a button, and the screens around the ballroom lit up with our impact statistics. 8 million followers, $12 million in direct aid, real change, not just social climbing. Mekki finally found his voice. Selena, stop this now. Why? I turned to him. Because it's embarrassing? Because it doesn't fit your family's image? You wanted me to find my place, remember? I gestured to the ballroom, where half the guests were already sharing the live stream. This is my place, not behind you, not beneath your family, but standing in my own truth. Vanessa reached the stage, face contorted with rage. You'll regret this. You're finished in this town. I laughed, and the sound echoed through the speakers. No, Mother, I'm just getting started. The cameras flashed, capturing the moment perfectly. Vanessa's fury, Mekki's shock, and me, finally standing tall in my own power. Thank you for teaching me about legacy, I said, addressing the entire Hughes family. I've built one of my own. The backstage area of the ballroom buzzed with controlled chaos. Sarah's crew was still live streaming, capturing every reaction as the Hughes family empire crumbled in real time. Trending #1 worldwide, Samuel announced, showing me his phone. Parallax Reveal and Selena Unmasked are dominating every platform. Royal burst through the door, tablet clutched to his chest. The donors, they're all redirecting their pledges to Parallax, even the Andersons. Of course they are. Vanessa's voice cut through the room like ice. She stood in the doorway, Kennedy and Yahir flanking her. They're all obsessed with viral moments and social media circus acts. No, Mother, Kennedy said quietly, staring at her phone. They're choosing authenticity over artifice. Look at these comments. I stepped forward, ready to face whatever came next. Would you like to read them aloud, Kennedy, or should I? You ungrateful little witch, Vanessa spat. We gave you everything. You gave me conditions, I corrected. Ultimatums. Shame. We gave you class, she shouted, losing her carefully maintained composure. We lifted you from your common little internet world and made you somebody. Samuel started recording on his phone. I was already somebody, I said calmly. Millions of people trusted my voice, my authenticity. You didn't lift me up, you tried to bury me. And now you think you've won? Yahir finally spoke, his voice cold. You've destroyed decades of social capital. No, I gestured to the live stream numbers still climbing. I've shown what real capital looks like. Impact, change, truth. The door opened again. Mekki walked in, his face unreadable. The press is outside, he said to no one in particular. Every major network. Perfect. Vanessa straightened her spine. We'll tell them how you deceived us, played the victim. Actually, Sarah stepped forward, camera rolling. We have 6 months of documented evidence showing exactly who played what role. Would you like to see the footage? Kennedy grabbed her mother's arm. Stop talking, Mother. You're making it worse. Making it worse? Vanessa laughed hysterically. Your father's board members are calling. Our foundation partners are distancing themselves. She's destroyed everything. You destroyed it, I said softly. The moment you decided image mattered more than impact. The second you chose cruelty over kindness. Mekki moved closer, his eyes meeting mine. Was any of it real? Us? All of it, I whispered. Until you stopped defending me and started changing me. A commotion outside drew everyone's attention. Through the door, we could see donors crowding around Sarah's team, pledging support to Parallax's initiatives. Mrs. Hughes, Royal interrupted, still clutching his tablet. The Parallax Education Grant. It's been approved. 8 figures. They want to announce it now. Vanessa stepped forward. Don't you dare. He means me, I cut her off. I'm Mrs. Hughes, for now anyway. The implication hung in the air. Mickey flinched. You're choosing this over family? Kennedy asked, but her tone had lost its edge. No, I walked toward the door. I'm choosing truth over pretense, impact over image, self-worth over social acceptance. Samuel touched my arm. They're ready for you. I turned back one last time. You know what the saddest part is? If you'd accepted me, my career, my voice, my passion for helping others, you could have been part of something revolutionary. Instead, you'll be remembered as the cautionary tale in my success story. You think you can walk away from us? Vanessa's voice shook. This family is still your name. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. No, Parallax is my name. Truth is my legacy. And unlike the Hughes reputation, those can't be bought or controlled. As I walked out to face the press, I heard Kennedy say, Mother, stop. Look at the donation numbers. She's already won. The ballroom had transformed. Donors who'd once kissed Vanessa's ring now crowded around Sarah, asking about Parallax partnership opportunities. Society photographers who'd documented Hughes events for decades trained their lenses on me. Mrs. Hughes, a reporter called out. What made you create Parallax? I took the microphone, aware of the Hughes family watching from the shadows. Sometimes, I said, the only way to fight silence is to create a louder truth. The cameras flashed. Behind me, I heard Mickey call my name, but his voice was drowned out by the sound of applause. Real applause, not the polite society kind. Samuel appeared at my side. Ready for phase 2? I thought about the schools we'd built, the lives we'd changed, the truth we'd uncovered. Actually, I smiled into the cameras, I think we're just getting started, because the best revenge isn't just proving them wrong. It's proving yourself right, over and over again, until your truth becomes undeniable. The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I stared at the email from Mickey's lawyer. 3 words stood out. Dissolution of marriage. My phone buzzed with a text from Samuel. Ready to film when you are. I grabbed my coat and headed to the studio, passing walls lined with photos of Parallax's impact. Smiling students in Ghana, women entrepreneurs receiving grants, digital creators breaking free from corporate chains. The trending numbers from last night's gala reveal are still insane, Samuel said as I walked in. You're the main character of the internet right now. Any word from the Hughes family? He checked his phone. Kennedy's gone silent. Yahir's foundation is hemorrhaging partners, and Vanessa, well, she's trying to spin it, but no one's buying her version anymore. I sat down in front of the camera. Let's do this. You sure about going unmasked? The time for masks is over. Samuel adjusted the lighting and pressed record. I looked directly into the lens, channeling every emotion from the past 6 months. Hi, I'm Selena. You might know me as the founder of Parallax Initiative, or maybe as the woman who exposed performative philanthropy at Boston's biggest charity gala. But today, I want to tell you my real story. The words flowed naturally now, unfiltered by fear or pretense. I fell in love with a man who promised to love all of me, my creativity, my passion for digital connection, my desire to make real change. But his family saw my work as beneath them. They demanded silence in exchange for acceptance. My phone buzzed again. Kennedy calling. I declined it. They thought they were teaching me about legacy. Instead, they taught me that true impact doesn't need designer dresses or society pages. It needs courage, authenticity, and the willingness to stand alone. Samuel gave me a thumbs up as I continued. To every creator who's been told their voice doesn't matter, to every dreamer who's been asked to shrink themselves for acceptance, this is for you. Your truth is your power. After filming, I found Sarah waiting outside. The documentary rough cut is ready, she said, pulling up footage on her laptop. We're calling it Parallax, Shifting Perspectives. The opening sequence showed my wedding day, then cut to clips of subtle emotional manipulation at Hughes family events. It ended with last night's revelation and its aftermath. Perfect, I said. Release it tomorrow. My phone buzzed again. Mecky this time. Against my better judgment, I answered. The divorce papers, he said without preamble. Mother's lawyers want to add a non-disclosure agreement. I laughed. A bit late for that, don't you think? Selena, please. Our family name. Stop, I cut him off. Your family name is exactly what I'm breaking free from. No NDAs, no silence, not anymore. I hung up and turned to Samuel. Send out the press release about the Global Education Initiative and call that women's shelter we funded. I want to visit today. Already done. Oh, and this came for you. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note from Kennedy. You showed me what real influence looks like, what real impact feels like. I'm sorry we tried to dim your light. K.E. My phone lit up with a notification. Vanessa had just posted a public statement attempting to discredit me. The comments section was flooded with Parallax supporters sharing stories of how our work had changed their lives. Should we respond? Samuel asked. No need, I smiled. The truth responds for itself. I walked to the window, watching the city wake up. Somewhere out there, the Hughes family was trying to salvage their reputation, but their world of performative charity and social constraints felt small now compared to the real impact we were making. Samuel, I called out, remember what you said when we started this, about how revenge wouldn't bring peace? Yeah, you were right. This stopped being about revenge the moment I realized my voice was bigger than their silence. He nodded toward my phone, still buzzing with notifications. So what now? I picked up my mask, the one I'd worn as Parallax, and placed it in a display case alongside photos of the schools we'd built and lives we'd changed. Now we build something bigger than revenge, I said. We build truth. My laptop chimed with an email from Royal. The foundation board wants to meet. They're considering removing the Hughes family from leadership. I closed the laptop without responding. Their world of social politics and performative philanthropy didn't matter anymore. I had real work to do. Ready for today's meetings? Samuel asked. I looked at my reflection in the window. No designer dress, no society smile, just me and my truth. Ready, I said. Let's show them what real legacy looks like. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone else's world. It's building your own, brick by brick, truth by truth, until it towers over the shadows they tried to keep you in.